during a media briefing on the outcomes of yesterday's cabinet meeting in Pretoria. Ntshabeni says to prevent the further misinformation, the South African Police Service has met with AfriForum to clarify allegations of white genocide. This is with reference to farm murders, with the Afrikaner Interest Group conceding that the crime statistics as released by the Minister of Police are accurate, including on farm murders.
It is common knowledge that some of the farm murders are committed by people known to the farmers, including their own family members. Cabinet is also aware of the false claim that there are approximately 72,000 white farmers who have signed up to relocate to the USA in response to the invitation by the US President. According to data, both from Agri-SA, Stats SA, and the Department of Agriculture, South Africa only has just over 41,000 commercial farmers. And therefore, there cannot be 72,000 commercial farmers leaving South Africa.
In other news, Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosi Ndiphile Xhakaza has condemned the recent protest action by the city's Metro Police officers, describing it as shameless. Ekurhuleni Metro Police went on strike, disrupting traffic on various major roads in the city last week. They were demanding increased salaries and danger allowance. Xhakaza says action will be taken against those who participated in the illegal strike. The Ekurhuleni Mayor was delivering his State of the City address in Germiston on Gauteng's East Rand.
Let me join the nation in condemning the recent illegal protest by our EMPD officers. This was an unprecedented act by any law enforcement institution. Stern and decisive action will be taken against those involved in this shameless act. Let me take this opportunity to apologize to everyone who was inconvenienced by this action and assure road users that we are doing everything in our power to ensure that this does not happen again.
We stay in Gauteng, where the Gautrain Management Agency is looking at other ways to make its service more affordable to the public. This is in response to declining commuter numbers, which the agency ascribes to the work from home and hybrid models that companies implemented during COVID-19. The agency says it is also considering extending the railway network to townships. Its spokesperson, Albert Modise, says they've since signed a private-public partnership agreement to attract more customers and ensure that the Gautrain remains sustainable.
The days of predictable 9 to 5, Monday through to Friday commute are over. Passengers are demanding that we run a frequent service throughout the day and offer dynamic pricing system to suit their hybrid work schedules. Cost is increasingly becoming the sole determinant when choosing a mode of transport. Under the new agreement, we will be able to consider a range of fare policies and pricing initiatives. Therefore, the rapid rail extensions from the current Gautrain station, mostly in the suburbs, to economic nodes and townships like Soweto and Mamelodi will significantly increase our customer base, boost our ridership.
Lastly, further afield, America's key trading partners have condemned President Trump's announcement of a steep new import taxes on cars and car parts entering the U.S. The 25% tariff is due to take effect next week. Germany and France said the duties were very bad news, with Japan reacting as well. The BBC's Nick Marsh has more.
Japanese car makers, they do have quite a bit of manufacturing in the United States, but they still do sell an awful lot of cars manufactured in Japan in the US. Japan's Prime Minister has been quite critical of these tariffs. He made the point that Japan's the world's largest foreign direct investor into the United States, and so hitting them with these sorts of tariffs isn't exactly fair. He's still hoping for some kind of exemption. But in the meantime, if that doesn't happen, then they are going to have to prepare some kind of countermeasures.
Recapping the top story this hour, the final analog switch-off set for the 31st of March will not go ahead as planned. The High Court in Pretoria has suspended the switch-off deadline. For SAFM News, I'm Dino Mutaung. Headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Royal AM back in training. Proteas to play Zimbabwe in T20 Tri-Series and Test, and also New Zealand. And Red Bull makes changes to their drivers. More details at 3:30.
It's always, hey, choose my kettle. It's this or that, Baba. But why? Why can't I service my car and pay for my wedding service as well? With a Nedbank personal loan, that's a rhetorical question because I can do both with access of up to 400,000 Rand at the best interest rate that is customized for me.
Don't let cash flow hold you back. Apply for your Nedbank personal loan online today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Abafana besithende want to ensure that Amakhosi walk off the pitch empty-handed, but the Golden Black Boys from Naturena are chasing 3 points to cement their spot in the top half. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows versus Kaizer Chiefs this Saturday, 29 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The sweetest hunt is finally here, but you don't need to search far and wide. Let Dis-Chem's best Easter buys hop straight into your basket. From nostalgic Beacon marshmallows to the delicious Lindt Gold Bunny. Whether you're planning an epic egg hunt or just treating yourself, we've got everything you need to sweeten your celebrations. Enjoy better value on our Easter offers, valid until 20 April at Dis-Chem pharmacies. Better health starts here.
SAFM commemorates Human Rights Month. We are all responsible for the protection of our rights. SAFM, leading the conversation. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It certainly is the National Pulse. My name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. And 3 hours of reflecting on the biggest issues that impacts the national pulse, the national psyche, starts now, right? To call in, as always, you know you have your own opinions. Probably the best way right away is just to post on social media. You can tweet us right away what you think are the biggest stories we should be covering or you want to get off your chest right away. Just tag SFM Radio, tag myself, Ashraf Garda, and do use the hashtag The National Pulse. You can also WhatsApp us, text or voice note 0614 104 107. And to call in, not quite now, later on, we'll take your calls 086 000 2032. By the way, just so that you know, it is 5 years now since we've had COVID-19. And I just wonder what for you are the biggest lessons to learn 5 years later. You know, we did so many things around COVID-19, from vaccines to lockdowns to, keeping apart, safer away, that sort of thing. What are the biggest lessons you've learned from that COVID-19 experience 5 days later? We'll also talk about issues in Zimbabwe, and there are big issues around challenges to the leadership of the current Zimbabwean leader, Emmerson Mnangagwa. But all that comes up later on. Let's start with our biggest issue for the first hour of the show. We're going to chat to the mayor of Cape Town, the Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis. He's not with us. He's a DA member, of course, and executive mayor of the city of Cape Town. Mayor Hill-Lewis, appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Nice to join you.
Thank you. Now, we're talking to you. It's interesting. A while back, when Floyd Shivambu moved from the EFF to the MK party, I remember saying Floyd Shivambu's move at that time, the Floyd Shivambu move was the political transfer of the season. Now we talk to you because we hear that the ANC leader of the Western Cape, or Cape Town, the Cape Town Council, has moved to the DA. So where does that fit in with regard to political transfers of this season?
Yes, I think it might be the transfer of the season. I like that analogy or that way of phrasing it very much. But yes, it's a wonderful day. It's the leader of the opposition in Cape Town, the leader of the ANC in Cape Town, Councillor Banele Majingo. A lovely guy. I've built a close relationship with him over the years as I've been mayor, and he's been leader of the opposition. And I must say, he's been a very reasonable, rational, very considered person, and I've always found him a person of integrity. So So I was thrilled when he let us know that his time in the ANC is he feels drawing to an end, and that he feels that the DA better represents his values. And importantly, I think this for me was crucial, that he recognizes that he's been impressed by what we're doing in Cape Town and the delivery that we're doing for the poor in the city.
So I've been going through, I've been just going through some of my notes when I heard about the story, and I was wondering, has there ever been another situation where a leader of the opposition in a metro, right, has actually moved to the other party as opposed to resigning and then maybe joining another party 1 year later or something? Do you know anything of that sort?
I think it is absolutely unprecedented. I can't say for certain, obviously, because I don't have a encyclopedic political history knowledge, but certainly I don't recall ever seeing or hearing of such an example of the leader of the opposition leaving and joining the governing party.
When did he tell you of his decision, not only to resign from the ANC, but to join your party?
To be honest with you, I've been telling him for ages, for months and months, that the more I get to know him and the more I speak with him, I just don't understand why he is still in the ANC. And he kind of at first laughed it off and joked about it. And then just in the last few weeks, he made it very clear that he's actually ready to talk about joining the DA. And so it's probably, I would say, 3 weeks, so let's say that I've known this is happening.
Now, I mean, I'm quoting him from his statement, and he said, and ideally we'd love to chat to him, and normally we'd speak to the ANC to say, he's not answering his phone. I'll probably tell you to say, Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis, your DA member is not answering his calls, and maybe if we can get him on later on, we'd love to talk to him. So, this is how things change so quickly, right? But this is what he said. He said, I've come to realize that my personal values and principles are now more aligned to those of the ANC, and in that he speaks about
of the DA,
of the DA, right? He speaks about clean governance, economic growth, and delivery for the residents regarding issues of poverty and unemployment, right? It sounds crazy me asking this, but I mean, do you think he's spot on in his analysis of what you and your party are doing in that city?
Well, obviously it's no surprise I'm going to say that, but I genuinely do think that people can see, and one of the things that he said to me in the last couple of days is that it's becoming harder and harder to make the argument in Cape Town, as the common argument we've heard in the past, that the city's not delivering for the poor. He said that's becoming harder and harder to do that because it's actually visible, it's actually noticeable, and he can't really deny it. And I was really very, very touched by that, because that is exactly what we are desperately trying to do. We are, straining every sinew to try and deliver to the poor and improve the quality of life, get the economy growing so that more people can work. That is our whole mission.
Interesting. He didn't bring up issues of actual policy differences to say, I've moved to the DA because I've bought into their overall philosophy. I mean, the things he mentioned about governance and economic growth. I mean, honestly speaking, if any leader doesn't subscribe to that or political party, you wouldn't want that person to be a leader of that party anyway, right? So what I'm saying is there doesn't appear to be any philosophical change that he said. There's a dramatic change in my understanding of how a party should work and the principles of a party.
Yes, I think so. Certainly the values and principles of the party are the most important, even more important than any particular policy position. There's always policy disagreements. Even within a party, there's lots of policy disagreements. But it's about pursuing the same set of values for the country and the same idea of what the future of the country needs to hold. And I've seen over the years, he's now been the leader of the opposition for 3 years, all the time that I've been the mayor. We've hardly disagreed on a policy aspect, which is why I've always said to him he's in the wrong party.
Okay, well, you're one thing is leaving his party, but considering that he was in a relatively senior position with his party, as you know, if his party was the majority, he would be the mayor and you would not be, right? What promises have you made to him in terms of a position within the DA in the city of Cape Town?
No, none. We don't have any vacancies at the moment. In fact, we had 2 people retiring. 2 of our long-serving councillors retired today. So the process to fill their vacancies will only start And he's welcome to apply for those if he wants to, but he must go through our normal DA process, and there's no guarantees there. Nothing. But I just want to say, I think the most important thing actually is not about the individual. It's obviously a big new story. It's unprecedented, as we've said, but I really think that Councillor Majingo speaks for many people in Cape Town who either vote ANC or are ANC members or used to vote ANC but don't anymore, who really can see and feel the difference happening in the city and who think the same as him. And what I said in council, which I think is critical, is that this is an invitation to them as well. It's not just about Spanele, it is about everyone in Cape Town who thinks the same way, for them to join as well.
Yeah, I heard that comment from you, an invitation for them all to join. I mean, do you think, that was you in your glory? I mean, can I put it that way, that you understood it is a big victory for your party, right?
It is. No, undoubtedly. It's a bit of a political coup, no doubt about it. But it's important for me to say that, yes, it's great to have one person join us, but I know that he speaks for many people in Cape Town, and probably in South Africa, who are very disaffected with the ANC and looking for a new home. And they can look, increasingly, people like that are looking to the DA.
Interesting enough, he didn't list amongst the visions the issues of transformation. And if there's been any criticism of the DA, it's been what is perceived as a lack of transformation within the party, and how you perceive the transformation agenda needs to be laid out nationally.
Well, the most important transformation that we're passionate about is about getting poor people who are overwhelmingly black in South Africa into a future of opportunity, improving their quality of life, and getting them out of poverty and into work. And that is what we're obsessed with every day. So, when people constantly, you often hear the refrain of us, not servicing a particular part of the city or a part of society. I always have to chuckle inside, and that is our absolute obsession every day. The primary beneficiary of a government that basically works and gets the basics right and functions, and a growing economy, are poor and mainly black South Africans.
So are you succeeding in that? Because I must say whenever people talk about the city of Cape Town compared to Joburg in particular, right, and that's very topical, as you know, then I would also bring up the fact that, the Cape Flats doesn't resemble the city of Cape Town. It's not Camps Bay, it's not the V&A waterfront, it's not Constantia, not at all. And in fact, the issues about delinquency and the drug issues in those in the Cape Flats regions, that's just so consistent for years and years and years. So how are you addressing that then?
Well, that's what I say. I think people are starting to see with the evidence of their own eyes and notice that what they see happening around them, and that's why I say that story is wearing thinner and thinner. That the city's only looking after one portion, or whatever. People will still say it, of course, because it suits them politically to do so. But in fact, the story is wearing thinner and thinner, as Councillor Majingo said today.
Now, let me leave you with this last thought. So we spoke about a political transfer. In football terms, if a player leaves Kaizer Chiefs and joins Orlando Pirates or Mamelodi Sundowns in the race to win a title, they'd be furious, right? How is this going to impact the GNU?
Oh, that is a good question, Chiefers. I haven't thought of that really. I hope that... Well, let's say, I hope that it actually shows the ANC and reminds the ANC yet again, they are no longer in charge of South Africa. They are part of the government, but they are not the government. And they do not have the political strength that they once had. Voters are leaving them in droves, whether it be to MK or to the EFF or to the DA. Voters have left them in droves, and many more are still going to. So it's about time that they have some humility and realize that the GNU is about sharing power. And it's about reaching compromise and not behaving as if they still run South Africa alone. Okay, I'm sure we'll have many conversations about that in the days or weeks ahead. Appreciate your time, Jordan Hill-Lewis. We will have a representative, by the way, Jordan, from the ANC later on at about 5:10, unless, of course, you get your new DA member to say, hold it, I'm available to talk, because we'd love to chat to him as well. I think it's so important we chat to Councillor Mbanele Majingo. In fact, will he still be a councillor, by the way? No, he's resigned his seat.
Completely, right?
He's resigned his
just so
seat,
that you
yes.
get that. All right.
But tell whoever your ANC guest is later that they're also welcome to come. The invitation's open to them as well.
We will talk to, that will be Mvuzo Ndlala, and whether he would agree or not, it's still up for you to make that pitch, not for me to make the pitch. Much appreciate your time. Reaction, of course, on the National Pulse starts now.
This is a story of Vodacom's impact.
Having the psychosocial support team has benefited us a lot. You're now able to refer to a specialist. We can accredit that to Vodacom.
This is why we do it. We've deployed psychosocial professionals specializing in GBV and bullying across 30 schools of excellence and ECD centers, helping over 30,000 learners. That's why we're the #1 CSI contributor for 8 years running. See more at now.vodacom.coza. Further together, Vodacom.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
SABC Technology Business is a unit which provides services to internal and external clients. Our strategic objective is to ensure that SABC has the appropriate and reliable technological infrastructure for production, post-production, digital media content available to the public. Our range includes IP portable production studio facilities and the digitization of legacy content. Our outside broadcast vans, fully equipped to follow you anywhere and everywhere. For competitive pricing, contact Bookings Facilities at sabc.co.za.
Right, so we'll certainly take your calls on that issue. What do you make of that story? An ANC leader of the city of Cape Town has moved from leader of the opposition to the DA, effective right now. In the meantime, 5 rands can't buy you a pie and a cold drink anymore, but Outsurance is still committed to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 rands cash. And make that 1,500 bucks if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. That's your options, right? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Well, if you think there's drama in the city of Cape Town, there's certainly drama in Zimbabwe, right? There are several reports coming from Zimbabwe that suggest that President Emmerson Mnangagwa is facing growing dissent within his very own party, the ZANU-PF party, with some veterans now calling for countrywide protests coming up imminently on the 31st of March, so that would be Monday, to force him to step down. This as they are worried that he is planning to extend his rule beyond 2028. So why? Why this change, and what would be the end goal of all of this? Lennon Ndebele, who's a Zimbabwean journalist, on the line now. Lennon, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse. Lennon, do I have you there? Yeah?
Yes, I'm there. How are you?
Okay, I think we're just battling to hear you, and I'll see if Phineas can sort out that sound so the audience can hear you as well. But let me just start by asking you this anyway. Give us some context as to what has happened.
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Give us some context in terms of what has actually happened.
Well, it's an internal ZANU-PF fight, basically. It's those pushing for Mnangagwa to stay on until the 23rd, extending by 2
Okay. I'll tell you what, let me just put you on pause because we just need to get your sound right. We certainly struggling to hear you, and of course we don't want to miss anything you have to say. So let me just put you back on hold. Let's get Keith to sort that out, right? In the meantime, it does mean you can perhaps comment, and many people are. It's 5 years now. It's 5 years now since we've had COVID-19. I mean, just think about it. What are the lessons you've learned, or we as the country have learned about that? In fact, I'll chat to Professor Shabir Mahdi about that later on, I think about 4:45, so don't miss that conversation. But it's certainly something for you to think about. What are the lessons we learned? And if, and I pray it doesn't happen, we hit another pandemic, what would South Africa do differently this time? So let me put that to you. Lessons you've learned around COVID-19 then, in terms of your understanding of our country. And if we are visited by another pandemic, what would you expect the country to do differently this time round? I think someone made the point, I was talking to Keys earlier to say, remember that one law that said you can buy something like long sleeve t-shirts, but you can't buy short sleeves, or you can buy shoes, but you can't buy open-toed sandals or something along that line. Well, I mean, those are some of them in terms of those rules, right? Let's get back then to Lennon Ndebele, right? Lennon, you're there, right? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hopefully this is much better, right? So give us some context as to what is brewing in Zimbabwe.
Well, what's happening is that there's a faction within the party that is against the idea of extending the president's term by 2 years or even another term. I mean, this is the talk going around when he still has 3 years to serve his last term. But now, when you find it happening like this, it's entirely about tenderpreneurs, so to speak, people who are benefiting from the president's stay and those that are not benefiting from the president's stay.
And let me understand this. Is it irregular for an extension of 2 years? Because I think about Robert Mugabe. I mean, and he was the president, well, just about forever, right?
Well, I can't hear you clearly.
I was saying with Robert Mugabe, he was the president and the leader of the ZANU-PF for it seemed like forever. So has the rules changed in terms of how long you can retain the position as the leader and the president of the party and president of the country now?
Okay, your line is not clear.
Okay. No, I think we're going to have to do this maybe some other time. Unfortunately, really disappointingly, so we just need to hear what Lennon has to say. Lennon, appreciate your time for now. Let's see if we can reconnect with you later on. Lennon Ndebele was a Zimbabwean journalist. It's a very, very important issue. But let's see if I can get some calls from you quickly. And there's many comments on the DA story, the ANC story, but there's some comments, of course, about the USA too. Let's pick out one or two of those calls, and if I can do that right after this.
This summer, SABC brings us together anytime, anywhere. Catch all the drama, entertainment, and sport on SABC TV. Turn up the volume with your favorite hits and shows on SABC Radio. Stream wherever you are with SABC Plus and join the fun at unmissable SABC events near you. From breaking news to moments that move us, SABC is your companion for every summer memory. Celebrate a summer of togetherness with SABC, your home for connection, entertainment, and inspiration. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, fingers on the pulse. What about the pulse of the ANC and the DA? Here's one.
Ashraf, if you can beat them, join them, Banel. It is clear that ANC is the shadow of its former self. You know, it is the downfall of the ANC if the senior ANC councillor defects ANC to DA. ANC has gone down the drain. Good afternoon, Dr. Vera. Housing from Bromfish.
Okay, thank you. But who said that they can't beat them? I mean, honestly speaking, the ANC still is the party with the most support in the country. So who said you can't beat them? Join them. Just think about that. Right, 3:30. Let's get the news headlines with Dineo.
A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 3:30. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the time for talk shops is over and government, along with stakeholders, must find solutions to the country's water crisis. In other news, the final analog switch-off set for the 31st of March will not go ahead as planned. The High Court in Pretoria has suspended the deadline. And the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, says South Africa looks forward to strengthening relations with the Democratic Republic of Congo. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the run to the N12 East at Gillies Interchange. The N12 eastbound in Pitfontein has a crash reported at Pitfontein Road, the N3 southbound in Alexandra, a stationary truck at London Road, and the M2 westbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Press Avenue. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale exit, the N3 westbound is queuing towards Pavilion Mall, and Felix Dlamini Road is slow moving through Sydenham. In Cape Town, the R300 westbound queuing at the M7 Jakes Hadville Drive, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Krombum Road exit, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Right, let's talk sports, and Tumi's with us once again after the 2-day absence. But I tell you what, it could also be a case of Royal are also back after their absence, I think. Let's find out.
They're actually back. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Royal AM players are officially back in training after the club's successful sale. The Premier Soccer League is set to confirm the new owners, but reportedly a Durban businessman by the name of Chokalinga Mudli has bought the team. It's still unclear whether the club will remain at Herigwala Stadium or move their home matches to Durban, but it's a developing story, and we are also yet to find out about the logistics around the remaining fixtures. What we know about this new owner is that he owns Royal Security, and he has deep political connects, and interestingly, he also won a large SARS tender back in 2023. So we are yet to find out a bit more about the owner and what is going to happen with the club moving forward.
So he owns Royal Security.
Yeah.
So if a guy buys a club and wants to name the club after the company, it's already named, done. That was the motivation. Got that.
Well, still staying with football, Mamelodi Sundowns striker Peter Shalulile is on the brink of making history. He's just 2 goals away from equaling the PSL's all-time record of 129 goals that is held by Siyabonga Nomvete. Now, the Brazilians are in action tomorrow against Kukuni United in the Nedbank Cup quarter-final clash. So, tomorrow might just be the day that he equals or breaks that record. Then moving on to women's football, University of Pretoria ladies coach Maud Khumalo says that they have endured a major challenge to the season's plan due to ongoing postponements of the Hollywood-based Super League fixtures. Amatax are one of 3 teams in the Super League looking to play their season opener this weekend, having had 5 previous matches postponed indefinitely. And Khumalo believes that the dysfunctional approach to the new season has affected their plans for the campaign ahead.
It's our first match of the season after I don't know how many games have been postponed. I think 5, because this month, March, we were supposed to play 6 games, 4 games away, and then two games home. So yeah, to be honest with you, it has a lot of negative impact in our planning, in terms of now our preseason has gone down the drain, so other teams have already started, and then it's quite challenging, especially for us as technical team, because of now we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know if our preseason was on point or not, because of now we're starting to play our first game ever since the Hollywood Bets have started.
Well, moving on to cricket, the Proteas are set to face Zimbabwe and New Zealand in a Tri-Nation T20 series and also 2 test matches against Zim. The series kicks off with SA taking on Zimbabwe in the longest format of the game for the first time since 2017 at Queen Sports Club in Bulawayo. Then the T20 Tri-Series starts on the 14th of July. In Formula 1, Red Bull have decided to replace Liam Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda in the senior Red Bull racing squad. Lawson has had a difficult start to the season, struggling with the RB21 during the Australian and the Chinese Grand Prix weekends, crashing out in the former amid treacherous conditions before crossing the line in the 15th in Shanghai, which later became 12th following the disqualifications of Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly ahead. Now, Lawson was chosen ahead of Tsunoda to replace Sergio Perez despite just 11 7 F1 race weekends under his belt. Then in rugby, Sebastian de Klerk has been handed a 2-match suspension for a dangerous tackle during the Vodacom Bulls win against Leinster last week. The Bulls winger received a red card for the hit on fellow speedster Andrew Osborne in the air and was cited after the match by the citing commissioner. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now, but before I leave, I think, Ashraf...
So it's not a wrap. You want to rap about something, yeah?
Yeah, I really want to put my head around this Hollywoodbet Super League issue, as I did allude to the fact that University of Pretoria are one of the few teams that are only going to start with their season opener this coming weekend.
So this is ladies football, right?
This is
Let's get that right.
ladies football in South Africa. Some of the fixtures have been postponed, and I think we did speak about it 2 weeks ago. But as you heard, imagine a team that was preparing themselves in the off-season, coming to the new season, then games are postponed. Some of the teams have already played 3 games.
So why are the other games postponed? It's not like it's I know I'm fasting. I know it's Ramadan, but that's not the reason, is it?
No, it's not.
Why?
Definitely not. SAFA says they're still in negotiations with Hollywoodbets, because remember the sponsorship was for 3 years. So this year they were supposed to try see if they can sponsor them even further moving forward. If anything, perhaps it also says that SAFA is struggling to find a sponsor for the league. But what does it say?
Because
about
if they say they're still in
country?
negotiation, that means they don't have the confirmed sponsor for this season.
Yeah.
So although it's called Hollywoodbets, in effect, it's a title with no backing at this point in time.
Absolutely.
And we know SAFA's got no money to pay salaries.
No.
Sure.
They honestly don't.
Hosts of the 2010 World Cup, what did we learn from all of that and the big monies that came through? I mean, seriously, I love football, but that must infuriate all football fans around that. Okay, lots to consider over that. Thanks for that. To me, more sports in an hour.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, we should be talking, and hopefully we'll do that soon, regarding the proposal by Judge Dustin Malambo to propose that parties, when it comes to a civil matter, they first seek mediation before they go to trial. And the reason for that may not be as honorable as you think. It's be able to try and avoid this huge backlog when it comes to high court issues in the country. We'll certainly get comments on that later on. But let's get to your calls. Romeo in Joburg. Go for it, Romeo. Hi.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon, and SFM listeners. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, right, Romeo. What's your point?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on what this news reporter from Zoom wanted to talk about the green station in Zoom. Yes, I wanted to just to say it's quite really pathetic that leaders in Africa, I don't know why they always want to be humiliated in such a manner that they don't even appreciate. People are talking every day to say they only think about themselves, not to think about the people. What's wrong with 10 years being a leader of the country, to lead the country in 10 years' time, you step down another one. Look what Botswana is doing. Look what Namibia is doing, regardless of their economic system. But things are done in a proper way rather than to be humiliated like what is happening currently, because this growing tension is being perpetuated by the issue of appointing his family members in the government on top positions, which was not supposed to be that way. And I don't know why African leaders, if any African leader who is listening now, please stay away of taking the country into a family issue. This is a country where you are given the mandate by the general citizen to say, lead us.
All right, point taken. I must tell you, I mean, you're right about that, and you wonder why they stay on that long, but I would also tell you it's not exclusive to African countries. Just Google it, you'll find out. Including, some yes, even in democracies there are people pushed up, even including in the USA and in parts of the Middle East and Asia. So it's not exclusive to Africa, but overall, you just wonder. I think more important is this sense of like, I can stick around forever, that sense of entitlement, isn't it? But talk about Zimbabwe. If you know more about what's happening in Zimbabwe, I certainly want to know about it. Cleo in Mofolo, let's talk about the DA.
Oh, good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon. Go for it, Cleo. What's your point?
I listened to the mayor of Cape Town.
Yeah.
I understand the euphoria around this for crossing or changing allegiance. But the problem is us citizens, because we have an obsession with personalities of politicians. Rather, we're supposed to be focusing on their ability to govern. Because all these politicians are interested. What they are pushing is partisan interest. It's not for the interest of the country. Someone moved from DA to ANC, ANC to DA, but what does the country benefit out of that? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but you must remember, we are talking about party politics for the moment. When you have an acquisition, for example, let's just say if Jordan Hill-Lewis moved from the DA to the city to the ANC today, sure, it would be a big story for the ANC. You can't deny that.
No, it's very true. But I mean, my point is that politicians are focusing on politicking rather than governance, because governance is about delivering what the citizens need, and politics is about cults, it's about personalities, it's about that. It's not serving us any purpose. It doesn't matter who moves from where.
Okay, got that.
That's my point.
That's your point. I wonder whether others would agree with your point. I am suggesting, yes, Jordan Hill-Lewis has certainly got a sense of euphoria today, but I'm saying to you, if that would apply to any other party, I'm not saying he's right, I'm just saying euphoria. Would others have done the same if a senior councillor of the DA moves to the ANC? What do you think the ANC will be talking about today? Right, let's get to the USA now. Imbawana has got a thought on that. Go for it.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, what's your point?
Yeah, the issue of ambassador to USA.
Yeah.
We mustn't send any ambassador to USA and Israel until they stop the genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mustn't.
But I mean, you see, but the problem with that, I mean, I understand there's sometimes often when countries are, at war with each other, they withdraw their full ambassadors. But at this point in time, if you don't do that, there's, it's not like you're not doing business with the USA. You want to do business with the USA, unless we don't want to.
No, because if they can't listen to the word and the evil that they're doing for the people of Palestine, how can we do business with them?
Okay, got that. I mean, I wonder whether others would agree with you on that. Thank you for that call, in Bawana. Right, we'll get to further WhatsApps as well just now. But there's a really important issue around digital migration. You may have heard about on the news that March 31 deadline has shifted. We'll talk to Thandi Smith about that after this.
Get a true AI business partner from Vodacom Business when you get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra on a Red Business 1.7 gig contract for 1,599 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 349 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric, mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Abafana Besithende want to ensure that Amakhosi walk off the pitch empty-handed. But the Gold and Black boys from Naturena are chasing 3 points to cement their spot in the top half. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows versus Kaizer Chiefs this Saturday, 29 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Are you a member of a Stokvel or Burial Society? Catch Gezaka on SABC2 on Wednesdays at 12:30 midday and at 10:30 at night, and again on Saturdays at 12:30 midday. The repeat is on SABC1 on Fridays at 4:30. Gezaka team will be at Newgate Mall opposite Bree Taxi Rank from the 6th to the 31st of March from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. to assist your Stokvel or Burial Society. Call or WhatsApp on 081-596-1065. The Facebook profile is Gezaka Stokvel and Burial Society show. Gezaka, brought to you in partnership with SABC Education.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I'll tell you what, amongst the many, many deadlines we have in our country, one of the biggest deadlines has got to be the issue of digital migration, isn't it? Yes, no, if what? Yes, it will happen. No, it's not happening, so I understand. We're talking about this digital migration switch off, right? Let's talk about that now with Thandi Smith, the head of programs at Media Monitoring Africa. Thandi, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Ryan. So tell me about this. The Gauteng High Court has suspended the analog switch off deadline, and the plan was to migrate to digital only. What actually happened today?
So, we are ecstatic about the judgment. We really, really welcome the judgment that was handed down today by the Pretoria High Court. And essentially it is about, the judgment is around suspending the analog switch off, which was due to happen on the 31st of March, in just a few days. What that means is that analog signals would be switched off. As you mentioned, we've been hearing it's about the digital migration. And we're currently in a dual illumination period. So we've got both analog and digital signals being transmitted. Those analog signals were due to be switched off. And the judgment has suspended that switch off. So that is not now happening.
Okay, and I take it that from where you sit, Media Monitoring Africa, I mean, you clearly one of the big proponents to have this switch off postponed, right? Tell me why.
For us, it's not about not moving to digital. We see the benefits of a digital environment. We, are big advocates for moving into a digital environment. But the big issue for us here is that we have to do so in a manner that doesn't leave those who cannot afford to be part of that digital environment to leave them behind. And that's exactly what the analog switch off was going to do. And we see this being reiterated in the judgment. And so what we've been arguing for is when the analog switch off takes place, when we cut off those analog television signals, make sure that everyone has access to information and is still able to access the television signals that they need. So it's exactly that. It's about not leaving those behind.
Okay, now, I mean, you mentioned it's been around for a long time. In fact, I can think about in the past 10 years talking about this migration that's going to happen one day soon, right? What then is delayed? I'm not suggesting the move to migration. You've agreed that it's important, right? What is delayed the fact that so many people will miss out from analog if the analog is switched off? That means we talk about the missing middle in terms of school fees must fall. Where's the missing middle story here that we don't quite understand?
Well, the thing is around the affordability of it. In order to receive the digital signals, one needs what is called a set-top box, so a decoder of sorts, to receive and to convert those signals to digital so that your TV is able to get that. And that infrastructure costs money. And so if you are above a certain threshold, you're able to afford it. If you're below that threshold, you'd qualify for a subsidized set-top box. But in order to do that, you have to register for the set-top box. You have to, the post office is involved in getting the set-top boxes. And so there's a whole series of factors that contribute to those who need the subsidies to actually get the box and get it installed. This is happening, but it's happening incredibly slowly.
Now, why slow? I mean, considering notice has been on, I'm saying, over a decade, right? So why slow?
Well, we've seen that, and this again was part of the case that was heard in court. We've seen that there are things like access to rural areas, cited as some of the challenges around installing the infrastructure, the cost of getting the infrastructure to certain areas. The capacity in terms of installers available to assist with this. And then on the user side, people are told to register, to go to their post office. Post offices are closing down. People have to travel far distances to get to post offices. So there are a number of prohibitive issues that are just causing delay after delay. And so, again, it's not to say that we mustn't complete this process, but we need to do it in a way that is inclusive of everyone who needs to continue to enjoy access.
In your opinion, just in terms of your understanding, how many people, maybe as a percentage of total audience, would have been affected if that switch off actually went into effect on the 31st of March?
Yeah, so the figures that we have sight of are just under 400,000 households. Now we need to remember that a number of people living in each household, and the estimated number that has been cited is just over 1.25 million people would lose access. Millions of people would lose access.
Okay. I do understand that. I said, remember in the presentations a week or two ago, you had the ENCA as well as the SABC and many others saying we can't afford this switch off. So it seems like most media houses are all on the same side on this issue, including yourself, right? But to go back to the important issue at this point in time, it's in terms of the High Court, it's a suspension. What happens next?
So we understand there will be a Part B to the case that will need to be reviewed, and so there are a number of areas that are included in the judgment, including issues around consultation and decision making. So I understand that those areas need to be reviewed as well. So it wasn't just the switch off, but the process around deciding on how the switch off happens needs to be reviewed. And so I understand that will also we will get more information about that in the coming weeks.
Okay, for now, revel in your glory, because that's certainly what you wanted. Thandi Smith, Head of Programs at Media Monitoring Africa. How fascinating is that? I know many people want to talk about this issue of the digital switch off, switch on, or digital pause, analog pause at this point in time. Well, let's hear it. I mean, it is a national pulse. Let's get your opinions and what you feel. In this case here, this has a direct impact in terms of what your understanding of what the pulse of the nation is.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
All right, let's get to some of the voice notes and the many voice notes we've had on some of the issues we've covered already. Here's one on the issue of the U.S. ambassador.
Ashraf, Brad here from Durban. Yeah, I agree with that guy that was saying we mustn't send an ambassador to the U.S. until they do what, as we say, they must stop supporting Israel and all of that. Yeah. I think we must show them a point. We mustn't send our ambassador there. Yeah, we'll put them right. They must do what we're telling them to do.
Listen, I must tell you, I disagree with many of the American policies. I can tell you that up front, and I've said so often on the air. But there's a difference between not sending an ambassador and breaking off all diplomatic ties. Is that what you're really asking? I don't think that's very clever. Really, it's not. Zig in Randburg, go for it. Hello, Zig.
Why must we switch it off?
Why can't we keep it going? What is the cost attached to keeping these million-plus people on the old-fashioned TV?
I don't quite know. I think a long time ago when we had this conversation, in a previous time, the plan was that the analog system is actually outdated, and therefore the whole move, that means those who are on analog will actually not benefit from the massive technological advances of digital. I mean, that's my quick answer on that one there, Zig. Thanks for that.
But you don't have to switch it off. There's no need to switch it off. Why should it be switched off unless there's a cost attached to keeping it on?
All right, maybe you have a point. Let's see if we can find out more about that. Thanks for raising that issue, okay? Right, there's more, and here's another one, well, on the issue that we discussed earlier on about the DA and the ANC.
Hi, Ashraf, Errol, Durban. You know, this council, this top caucus leader won't be the last to leave the ANC. There are other pastors like the DA, the FF or the MK. So yeah, I think it's the beginning of the end for the ANC. I could be wrong, but it would be a good thing because the ANC's foreign policies have cost South Africa dearly. I mean, associating with Iran and Russia and China, and rightly or wrongly condemning Israel and taking Netanyahu to court. So yeah, let's just wait and see what happens.
Okay, and that's the issue. Thanks for that, Errol. Many people have raised that, whether the ANC were right or not. But to say at the end, I think is a bit much, because they still got 40% thereabouts of the vote in the last election. They're certainly losing votes, but maybe it is time for that ANC revival. And sometimes you need to lose a few more percent to come back very, very strongly. Because alternatively, for the many voters, how many genuine alternatives do they have? Think about that middle that we often talk about. Sipho in East London, go for it.
Ashraf, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Quick one, man. I want to ask serious questions to my ANC. My ANC that I led, and to an extent still leading. My ANC, that has been in government and that has been voting for ever since the break of a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to my ANC? That the neoliberals are the ones who are standing on the side of the poor. That they are the ones now who are standing up for the greater majority of the country. The typical example is this extension of an analog. Imagine if this analog can be switched off. How many of our people or millions of the ordinary South Africans that will be switched off or cut off from the communication of a TV, news, and anything else? You go to the Fed increase now. That who's standing with the ANC on this matter of increasing VAT? What happened to my ANC? Should we cry for our ANC? How do these leaders sleep at night?
I'll tell you what, I'd like to fast forward that message of yours straight to the ANC leadership. What happened to my ANC? And clearly I'm not qualified enough to actually answer that question. Let the ANC, in fact, answer that question. But you certainly raised some really, really important points coming from the heart. I certainly gather it, right? After that, let's talk about Ramaphosa.
Ashraf, Dumel. Ashraf, you heard what Ramaphosa said. He said he knows that people are vandalizing water infrastructure. He knows. And he said they must talk about it. Talk. Ashraf, how can you talk? Arrest those people because you have the power to say arrest those people which are damaging our infrastructure. There's no time to talk, my brother. Ashraf, some people like Ramaphosa, they are not meant to be leaders. They are there by coincidence. Skosana here.
Oh my goodness, they're a leader by coincidence. I've never heard anybody describe our president like that ever before, a leader by coincidence. But by the way, talking about water, we're going to talk about the water. We're going to play some of the sound from the president. But before that, get a conversation about the water issues as per that big water in Daba. And that comes up just after the news now at 4 o'clock. So listen out for that. Okay, 4 o'clock, here's Daneo Matang with the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories. Ramaphosa urges action on water crisis and SA aims to strengthen ties with the DRC. A very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the time for talk shops is over and government, along with stakeholders, must find solutions to the country's water crisis. Ramaphosa was speaking at the two-day National Water and Sanitation Indaba in Midrand, Gauteng. He says stakeholders taking part in the two-day gathering must come up with solutions.
What is needed now is course correction. We need to correct what is going wrong. And we also need a comprehensive plan that will expand access to water and sanitation services, improve the quality of water and sanitation infrastructure, and bring stability and good governance all the entities involved in the South African water stewardship.
The final analog switch-off set for the 31st of March will not go ahead as planned. The High Court in Pretoria has suspended the switch-off deadline and interdicted the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies from implementing it. This pending a final determination on Part B, which refers to the review of the lawfulness of the decision to set the deadline to 31 March 2025. The decision comes after ETV, Media Monitoring Africa and SOS Support Public Broadcasting Coalition hauled the minister to court last week. Kenny Mapanga reports.
The applicants argued that the deadline will breach a promise made by government, the decision was taken without rational consultation, and that government is nowhere near completing its process of rolling out set-top boxes to all who need and have been promised them before the 31st of March 2025. The High Court in its judgment found, among other things, that if the applicants are not granted this interim relief, but succeed on review, millions of South Africans would have been plunged into a television blackout. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Still in the courts, the investigating officer in the Jocelyn Smith trial at the High Court sitting in Saldanha Bay on the Cape West Coast, Captain Wesley Lombard, has suggested that Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, was involved in a prostitution ring around Saldanha. Captain Lombard says they interviewed other sex workers in the town if it was possible for an activity like that to lead to a situation where a child could go missing. Lombard says the answer was negative. Kelly Smith, Jacqueline Buta Apollos and Stephen Van Ryn are on trial for kidnapping and human trafficking in relation to the missing Jocelyn. Elias Smith told the court she was feeling sick, leading to the court to adjourn until midday. In other news, Dali Tambo, the son of the late struggle stalwart Oliver Tambo, says it is vital that struggle heroes continue to be celebrated. Tambo spoke at the unveiling of a life-size bronze statue of the late music icon Johnny Clegg in Cape Town. He says people like Clegg fought hard through music to create a free and unified society. Tambo is the CEO of the National Heritage Project of the Long Walk to Freedom Pantheon.
It is our generation's duty to ensure that those who did not live through it, the born freeds, will know of the efforts of the legions of freedom fighters, know our journey to liberty, because all that sacrifice was for us, and to have the society we have today.
Lastly, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, says South Africa looks forward to strengthening relations with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Minister and the Deputy Minister, Alvin Bottas, met with DRC Foreign Minister Teresa Kayakwamba Wagner to discuss issues of peace, security, as well as trade relations. Lamola says the discussions have been fruitful.
As we conclude these political consultations, I wish to thank you for your visit to South Africa. Indeed, our discussions were fruitful, and I look forward to our next engagement together. Please be assured that my department will shortly communicate a proposed date for the review meeting that will launch the preparations for the 13th session of the biannual commission, which South Africa is looking forward to hosting. I wish to reiterate that it can only be for the benefit of both our countries that we leverage our friendship and strong relations to deepen our economic partnership.
Recapping the top story this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the time for talk shops is over and government, along with stakeholders, must find solutions to the country's water crisis. For SAFM News, I'm Dino Mutaung. Headlines at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, Blitzbox set for Hong Kong Sevens and Kenya probes goalkeeper match-fixing allegations. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported after Goudmace interchange. The M2 eastbound in Cleveland has delays towards Cleveland Road exit, and Golden Highway in Diepkloof is slow moving at Main Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Hammersdale, the M3 westbound is queuing towards Pavilion Mall, and Mgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the R300 westbound queuing at the M7 Jakes Hadwell Drive, slow moving traffic also reported through Greenpoint area and Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Abafana Besithende want to ensure that Amakhosi walk off the pitch empty-handed, but the Gold and Black boys from Naturena are chasing 3 points to cement their spot in the top half. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows versus Kaizer Chiefs this Saturday, 29 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So I did talk about the political transfer of the season a while back, and I spoke about Floyd Shivambu moving from the EFF party to the MK party. Well, Jordan Hill-Lewis tends to believe that this one is pretty close, if not even more significant, in terms of a political transfer. We talked about a conversation I had with the mayor of Cape Town earlier on about the move of the ANC leader of the ANC in the Cape Town region, Banele Majingo, who's now resigned and then moved on to the DA. So I can tell you two things. Having chatted to Jordan Hill-Lewis, and you can listen to the podcast as well, we'll chat after 5 o'clock to Vusi Ndala, who's the secretary of the ANC Dela Omar region, right? But I'm glad to say, as per our request, we will have now the person at the center of all of this, Banele Majingo, coming up in about 10 minutes' time. So listen out for that conversation. Now, lots of conversation also about the issues of water and sanitation and where South Africa fits on this one. And that call we had early on about the president saying we need to talk about issues, right? Well, we do have, let's talk about that. It's a big deal today, the water and sanitation, National Water and Sanitation in Durban that's taking place today. So let's talk about it with Nikiwe Nam, who's the Salga NEC member and executive mayor of the Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality in the Northwest region. Nikiwe, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, NEC.
Thank you very much, and to the listeners, good evening.
Thank you. So give us your take in terms of, the significance of this coming together and this in the midst of what clearly is what is considered by many people as a bigger problem than load shedding has ever been.
Thank you very much. I think we all agree that it's not a myth. There are challenges related to water in South Africa. The issue is not that much of a scarcity, but I think we're talking management, we're talking infrastructure, and we're talking the use of water, especially at the end tail where a consumer is involved. There has been, I thought you wanted to say something before I continue?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. There has been, in general, in the sector, there's acknowledgement that our infrastructure has been eroded by climate change, but we do have old infrastructure that is practically not carrying the rest of the communities, where infrastructure sometimes is asbestos driven, which is a health hazard to our communities. So we want to find out, and we are here collectively through the ministry to say who is responsible for what, because ordinarily there would be an expectation that a municipality that is a water provider or a water authority would then have the necessary capacity and resource to continue to maintain and build their own infrastructure. However, when we look into what has been in existence and what would have been the backlog which were never addressed previously, it then says this conversation is important. That's why we are here. We're here to say, let's stop the blame game. Let's not responsible. Let's say, where can we source the necessary resources to address the infrastructure-related challenges, harness the water, and ensure that we deal away with wastage, we deal away with the corruption, we deal away with every other element that finds itself because we are not organized as a sector.
Well, it's interesting you say that let's stop the blame game, and I understand that completely, right? But if we're going to do that, and you've mentioned the points that you said are so critical, right? That would normally start by doing an analysis of where the problems lie, and I think you've done that to a degree. And then when you try and eliminate the problems and go to solutions, it would require an accelerated goodwill from all sectors of society. So how are you going to do that?
We all agree that whilst there are other discussions going on, either at the level of Treasury with COGTA and SALGA, because I think the fundamental is that you do have a society that is plugged into a lot of unemployment. Our economy is not able to produce the jobs. And once jobs are produced, people will have the capability of paying for water. Now, the majority of them are consumers, but they are not in a position to pay. Those that can pay, we all agree as a sector, we must gun them down and go and find them. And when I say gun them down, I'm saying we must aggressively go and find them where they are, because they have the capability to pay, but they are not paying. So that we isolate people that are capable of paying, which are not paying, we look for them. Those that are not able to pay, we quantify, the number is huge. And then we say, do we stop providing water because people are not able to pay? No, we can't do that because it is their fundamental right.
But here's a question to you. What's the percentage of people, and I'm talking about nationwide, what percentage needs water? 100%. We know that, right? What's the percentage that needs water but they can't afford to pay nationwide? What would that percentage be?
I don't have the numbers, but we do have the numbers, and I think at the end of the session we'll give you the numbers.
All right.
But in general, in the country, I think there's less than 30% of the people that do not have access to water. Access not consistently. I think 80% of the people do have access to water. 70% do have access to water. But the consistency and the sustainability of the water becomes a critical issue because of other factors that we are talking about.
Okay. The other part, you made the point about those that can pay must pay, others will gun them, and of course you clarified gun means something else, and I understand that.
Yes,
but here's the point, right? I think there's an increased middle class that is under severe pressure that seemingly they can afford to pay for it in terms of their salaries, but they're so stuck in massive commitments and paying things for themselves that they are genuinely battling to pay as well. So what about them then?
But when you battle to pay, you don't hibernate and hide. You come forward and say, hey, here I am. If I was expected to pay a little bit of 500 rands, I can't afford it now. I'm making an arrangement. I'll pay 300 for the next 2 years, and then I'll come back. Please don't charge me interest, because then if you don't state your story and we are able to evaluate the facts that surrounds what your story is, we would assume as government that you don't want to pay. So we do understand. I think here it's also about participatory democracy. People must not keep quiet and sit in a corner. We understand the challenges that are facing them, but come forward. Go and speak to your municipality. Be able to declare yourself and say, I'm here. If you don't do that, we would never know what the issues are and will not be in a position to engage with you and come up with solutions.
Well, I think you've made that point very, very articulately, and I think that's such an important point to punctuate. So well done on that, right? Let's then talk about the initial point you made to say, we need to move forward, right? But if we have a water scarcity problem, and at times in our country we do have that at times. I'm thinking about Cape Town's ground zero issue almost a while back. But overall, you say we have the water, but we have got infrastructure and management problems. But that is a huge indictment on us, isn't it? Because if we've got infrastructure problems, but we have a bigger problem with management that has been unable to identify those problems in advance, and what then is the purpose of management?
We have indicated, I think our municipalities have been categorized, and a number of inputs that SALGA has made to the department, I think that we are in agreement. In most of the municipalities, we are not able to afford the type of capacity and competence that is required. If you look into, yes, so we are now looking at policy review to say, what do we do for a municipality that is possibly at a low grade? They can't afford to pay an engineer, but they do need an engineer because of the kind of asset that they have and the infrastructure that exists in their space. So we are currently agreeing in principle, and we'll finalize these discussions just after the summit, that says where you have district municipalities with capacity that needs to be built in those municipalities to have shared services of those kind of engineers, those kind of analysts, those kind of economists that are required for them to assist the municipality to make informed, evidence-based kind of decisions, to even plan better. Let's do that. And how do we do it? That's where COGTA comes in. That's where the Department of Water and Sanitation come in, and all other departments that are critical to say, I can give you a portion of my money to build that capacity so that I don't have to have problems when everything collapses. I'm now expected to come in. I think these are the discussions and these are the positions that SALGA is bringing forward to say, help us to build the capacity and the competence that is required so that we can maintain.
But it sounds great, except that many of the local municipalities are out of money. They're not going to transfer money to another local council. We know that, isn't it?
But remember, you are not resolving a problem when you do that. The municipalities will continue to exist beyond our lifetime. Let me give you an example. If you come, you bring the money, you say, I'll implement it for you. For how long are you going to implement as a central government in an area where you are supposed to be permanently implementing? So we don't have a choice. We'll have to build that capacity. We'll have to introduce new ways. We'll have to professionalize local government. People must be employed knowing that your responsibility is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't perform, get out of the door and go home. We'll get somebody else that does that. And for now, most of our municipalities are not professionalized. They don't have the performance systems that are required to say, I hold you accountable because I give you a salary to perform a function. You are not performing it, and I can prove it to you, because you don't just fire a person. There has to be evidence from the supervisor that I've taken you to training. I've exposed you to the environment. I have given you instructions. Based on your qualification that you provided to me, I've given you money, but you are still failing me. I can't have you here. Please go home. Let me get somebody else who's willing to work.
All right. Well,
so that professionalization of the sector becomes also critical.
Well, I appreciate the clarity of thought. It's something that we don't get to hear too often from people in the political spaces, especially when dealing with problems, right? But having said all the things you've mentioned earlier on, right, what for you then would be the one thing that needs the most urgent attention around the issues of water in our country?
Infrastructure.
Okay.
We need simple bulk infrastructure to connect all communities to access the water, to quantify the cost of water to our communities and what the municipalities are capable of doing so that we deal with the difference and the balance, and to sustain the provision of that water.
Well, let's leave it at that, and that's the big challenge, infrastructure. Appreciate your time. In fact, I before you go, there's a quick comment. Isaac in Hammanskraal, by the way, says, Isaac in Hammanskraal affords and wants to pay for water, but can't because of the situation in Hammanskraal. He's also asking, does Nikiwe pay for water? Okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. One of the critical issues that we have noticed as SALGA is financial management systems in municipalities. Just when you were calling me, I think the session was discussing the uniformity of a financial system where you have municipalities that can afford to pay those systems so that we benefit the lesser municipalities, because municipalities will have to move with times. I don't have to leave my desk at work and go and pay for my services. There'll have to be acknowledgement of your ICT and the development in our space so that even when I'm at work, I'm able to get my bill, we can resolve issues, but I can just simply do what I can do. Some municipalities, they still deliver at home, and then you must find time work out of work. These are the financial management systems and the systems of municipalities in general that we're saying we also have to improve, because they can bring in a lot of payers in the system.
Let's do that. I take it that you do pay for your water as per the request as well. And the Kiwi Nam, thank you for your time. NEC member, El Salga NEC member, Executive Mayor of the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality in the Northwest. And this in the context of a very important day, people coming together at this important summit around water issues that are being discussed. Sustainable water and sanitation. It is such a big deal, and it's really at the center of everything we do in terms of living and breathing every single day. And yes, it's been discussed before. It's probably even more important than our power failures that we've had. Let's talk to the former leader of the ANC in Cape Town right after this.
The boxing ring will be dominated by strong and heavy punchers. Who will be named the King of Gauteng between Manuel Sekele and Simon Mweti? In the flyweight division, Tiamo Zwane of Northwest battles it out with KZN's Bonelo Maseko. Also in the flyweight division, there is more exciting bouts this Friday evening. This is the National Boxing Championship. Witness the powerful exchange of punches this Friday, 28 March at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so we should be chatting to, as we discuss the former leader of the opposition in Cape Town, the ANC leader Baneli Majingo. As you heard, he resigned, confirmation today. So that should come up imminently. But before we get to him, as soon as we can connect with him in the first place, let's stay with the issue of water and the national water and sanitation in Java. The President, Ramaphosa, he spoke and has spoken about it. We've picked out some key issues that he's mentioned, including the ongoing efforts to improve access.
There's a global commission that has been formed on the economics of water, in which one of my presidential economic advisors, Professor Mariana Mazzucato, sits, which was established to redefine the way we value and govern and manage water. They define water as essential for life, which we should all know, and say that it moves in a complex and often invincible way all around us. They argue that from its source, from whence it cometh, and to where it sinks in the ground, water connects every creature on the planet, animals and human beings. They categorize water as blue water and green water. Blue water, they say, is found in rivers, in lakes, and aquifers. And underneath our feet and soils, the soils hold moisture, essential for plants to grow, and this is called green water. As these plants release green water back into the atmosphere. Now, as a country, we can be proud of the progress that we have made in fulfilling the basic right that is enshrined in our Constitution, the right of our people to have water and to have dignity. The National Water Act of 1998 was the key legislative enabler to facilitate access to adequate water and sanitation for all our people. The results of Census 2022 point to our ongoing progress since the National Water Act was signed into law. In 2022, access to clean water stood at 88.5%, and access to improved sanitation stood at 80.7%. One contrasts this with the apartheid legacy, where by 1994, approximately 30% of the population lacked access to adequate water supply, and more than 50% were without adequate sanitation. If you look at the two statistics, you will then see that tremendous progress has been made. The Department of Water and Sanitation is indeed to be commended for its ongoing efforts to improve water and sanitation across the access, sanitation and water access across the country.
So you heard earlier on in a conversation with Nikki Wenam giving her thoughts about the biggest challenges facing the country. Well, let's hear it from the President.
River system. Whilst these long-term water infrastructure build programs or projects will undoubtedly mitigate current supply challenges being experienced, we are keenly aware at the same time that security of supply is by no means our only challenge. We are still very much a long way from achieving clean water and sanitation for all, as encapsulated in the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 of the United Nations. Last year's Water Summit identified aging and poorly maintained infrastructure, vandalism of water infrastructure, illegal connections, organized crime in the water sector as some of the challenges facing service delivery in this sector. There are people who make it their business to go and cut water lines, to create businesses for themselves so that they can cut water in trucks and tanks to our people. Now, that is the criminality that has now entered the water space. And this is what we must collectively talk about here and find ways of bringing that to an end. That should end is a must. We must bring that to an end. And suddenly there are all these very important business people who drive around in fancy cars, but who have water trucking businesses, when water should be transported through pipes. No, what they do, they get their henchmen to go and cut the water lines and then make sure that there's failure by the local authority to deliver water, leading to the alternative of relying on them to transport water because they make money out of transporting water. There's no dignity for our people to be standing alongside the street just tapping water from a truck where somebody is making a lot of money.
And then, interesting, he spoke about we must find ways, right? And that's what one of the callers was so infuriated about, to say, why only now? Anyway, having said that, what's the plan going forward?
My call, therefore, to national government as well as to provincial government is to use this Indaba as an opportunity to chart a practical course for supporting municipalities across the country in the delivery of water and sanitation. For example, municipalities are not effectively leveraging, for instance, the likes of the Urban Settlements Development Grant, the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, and other ring-fence financial resources to improve the provision of these services in their local areas. And it is when they wake up and are able to utilize these facilities, financing facilities, that they will be able to gain traction. And it is a shame when one often hears that municipalities have returned money to the fiscus without utilizing it, and yet the service delivery needs in their areas are so huge. Now, for its part, local government leadership needs to prioritize turnaround strategies for their respective water services authorities. It will be crucial that the recommendations of the 2024 Water Summit, as well as of the various reports, including the DROP reports, are actually implemented as part of their corrective plans.
Well, that's President Ramaphosa at the Water and Sanitation Summit. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Daneo Matau.
Thank you, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 4:30. Action SA has urged Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber to reject the citizenship application of leader of the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, Phil Craig, indicating his willingness to take the matter to court. Craig is of British descent and has lived in the country for 20 years. In other news, the leader of the ANC in the City of Cape Town Council and leader of the opposition, Councillor Banele Majingo, has resigned and joined the Democratic Alliance. And the Democratic Republic of Congo's Foreign Minister Therese Kayakwamba Wagner says political consultations with South Africa have been constructive and fruitful. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Parktown has delays towards Houghton Drive exit. The N1 southbound in Midrand, a crash before Buccleuch interchange, all lanes are open. And the N1 southbound in Fourways, queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In KZN, the N3 westbound slow moving towards Pavilion Mall. Felix Dlamini Road is slow moving through Sydenham, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N1 inbound slow moving on the elevated freeway, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N3 Philip Hosana Drive outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapele.
To me, I thought when you follow sport, or let's say soccer or football, because you enjoy the game, what did they say? Football is the beautiful game.
It is.
But I understand there's a royal drama that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I did say it's a developing story. In a twist of events, it seems like Royal AM might just still be on the market. This is after the Premier Soccer League Exco declined to accept that offer that was put forward, causing the deal to collapse. The deal, which was reportedly more than 20 million rand, was an agreement between the curator and Mr. Chokalengam Mudli. So basically, the final decision rests with the Premier Soccer League.
Why?
And so,
did they give a reason why they've declined it?
We are yet to hear from the Premier Soccer League why they declined.
Okay.
Very interesting indeed. But meanwhile, Kenya opened a match-fixing investigation following allegations that goalkeeper Patrick Matasi helped rig an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. There's a video that shows an unnamed man talking to Matasi over a plan to fix a match in return for cash. Now, Matasi was dropped from the team by new coach Billy McCarthy and did not feature in the recent 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Gambia and Gabon. In rugby, the Blitzboks are gearing up for Uruguay and Australia on the opening day of the Hong Kong Sevens tomorrow. The Springbok Sevens never managed to win the tournament at the previous venue, which was the Hong Kong Stadium, dating back to 1993, and now they're hoping for better luck at the impressive new Tux Stadium. The Blitzboks are currently fourth in the World Rugby Sevens Series standings with 62 points behind leaders Argentina, Spain and Fiji. Elsewhere, Bulls Daisies assistant coach Bongiwe Nhleko says that he's expecting the team to remain calm under pressure as they look to secure their third SA Rugby Women's Premier Division title this weekend. The Daisies will face Western Province for a third time in the Women's Rugby League final at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday.
As finals always bring an extra level of energy, so we expect the players to stay calm under pressure, trust in the training and the process of everything, and just remain focused on executing what they know. We want them to give their all and show their heart and resilience that got them here. So it's a great opportunity to prove, to showcase their skills on the big stage.
In athletics, the stage is set for one of the most exciting junior athletics events in South Africa, as the Athletics South Africa under 16, under 18, 20 and 2020 and 23 track and field championship kicks off today at Greenpoint Stadium in Cape Town. In the under 23 men's division, all eyes will be on World Junior 400 meter champion Udim Ocon and Olympic silver medalist Lyth Pillay, both expected to deliver electrifying performances. Meanwhile, in terms of the under-23 women's sprints, national senior 100-meter champion Viwe Jinkle will be one to beat, and then SA junior 100-meter and 200-meter record holder Bayanda Walaza enters as the favorite, but he will have a strong challenger in Karabo Letebele. Then in golf South Africa has announced the teams that are set to represent SA in a series of prestigious African golf tournaments that are taking place in April and May. Leading the charge, Shannon Butler from Central Gauteng, along with KwaZulu-Natal duo of Olivia Wood and Kamaya Mudlia, and Western Province's Odette Boyson will compete in the Southern Regional All-Africa Challenge at the Omea Golf Estate in Namibia from the 23rd to the 26th of April. Golf for RSA is also sending teams to the All-Africa Junior Golf Championship in Tunisia from the 24th of April. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on that Royal AM
But wait, on the Royal AM story, so you said earlier on they've gone back to training, right?
Yes.
Because they knew now the deal
is
on.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Is training over?
Listen, all I know that the training was held this morning. There's actually clips of the players back in training, and it was at the Herigwala Stadium. But now with all of this happening,
so they wasted a training session. Or alternatively, they were training, and I can imagine halfway through, it's like, you come off. Like, what? You don't play for the team any longer. Don't worry. You're not bunking. You can get off the pitch. How bizarre. Okay.
Very crazy.
Yeah. Right, more sports, training and all in an hour.
Amidst misinformation and disinformation, where can we find reliable news? Turn to radio, your trusted source for truthful updates. For over 3 decades, we've upheld integrity as a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Count on us for news you can trust. Say no to fake news. Radio, keeping it real since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters. Tune in, trust, and stay informed.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to those numbers with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Right, you got all the news locally and globally, Paswane, so go for it.
Yes, afternoon and to everyone. South African producer price inflation increased at an east pace of 1% as goods slowed in pricing, especially in key sectors, but generally remains under control when you look at the month-on-month. It was below expectation. On a global front, development seems like we're seeing continuous global yields rising as we head into a new quarter. This follows expectation of inflation will be rising along with growth following up together because governments have been making efforts in the G20 to stimulate that growth, and they continue to have a monetary policy stance that is not hawkish on a margin, although the U.S. growth is still remaining uncertain due to trade policies that are still undergoing, with the latest development being the 25% tariffs on vehicles made outside the U.S. Yes, this has hurt a lot of auto companies globally, whether you look at Europe or Japan, and with locally we still remain covered because of our AGOA. However, but from an indirect standpoint, we will get affected due to disruptions from supply chain standpoints. Tariff, as I said, remains a problem, and it is reflected in the equity space. We see the US just opened marginally up 0.1 across the board. Some support is just coming from the sentiment that Trump has said he has some good news coming into next week. So we'll have to wait and see what is that clearly. Europe has traded lower down with the CAC, with the FTSE down 0.5, DAX down 0.8. Locally, JSE is down 0.4 as our financials were down 0.7, resource down 0.2, while industrials were flat. Gold continues to shine in this uncertain environment, up 0.9%, closer and closer closer to near record highs at $3,047 an ounce. Very bullish. Oil has declined but remains in a more neutral standpoint, down 1.3% at $73 a barrel. We're looking at a rand against a dollar weaker at 18.32, rand against the euro at 19.74, and rand against the pound at 23.68.
And that's the whole story. Lots to consider coming out of all of that. Paswane, thanks for that. We'll connect again with you tomorrow. Thank you.
My name is Jabu Mahlangu, aka Shuffle the Pack, aka 1 Hour Swing. I start my day with a short prayer. I give hugs to my kids. I'm very playful. I love all the genre, but Kwaito is number one. Kwaito is our culture. About the late Mandoza, about the late Mapaputsi, and I could relate. And it's in us focus. Ivory Coast for me, it was a beautiful country. I know Utabanye Batandes in Indabo, Mauritius, Nana, this window is a love. SABC Sport, this is the main one. Wonkela Omanyama channel, Azalwe, because of SABC.
Catch Jabu Shuffle Mahlangu unpacking the beautiful game in a lingo you love on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So we were hoping to chat to the former leader of the ANC in the Cape Town City Council, who you now know has resigned and is now part of the DA. That was the plan, but then struggling to confirm to get him on air after he'd agreed to come on. So hopefully if we get a chance, we'll still talk to him. That's former councillor Banele Majingo, right? But the podcast of the conversation we had with Jordan Hill-Lewis of the DA is up already. You can listen to that. And I can tell you as well, we will chat to the ANC, and I'm talking about Vusi Mdala, the secretary of the ANC Dalla Omar region, about just that at 5:10. Don't miss that. Right, a week is a long time. A few days ago, I go shopping and I bump into Prof. Shabir Mahdi and we talk about many other things. But 1 week later we talk about and we reflect seriously about COVID-19 and what happened then 5 years ago. Prof. Mahdi, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Something I noticed just to get your title right, Dean of Wits University's Faculty of Health Sciences, right? So we picked up a piece from the Citizen newspaper where you were quoted as saying, if we had another bout of the pandemic at the level that it would have been 5 years ago, we'd even be worse off. Oh my goodness, why?
Well, there's a number of factors to consider. So one would have thought that we would have learned our lessons, having been ill-prepared when COVID-19 struck as a pandemic 5 years ago. Unfortunately, when you see what's happening in our public health sector in particular, there's been a deterioration of the facilities. There's been a reduction in terms of the number of staff. A number of positions are not filled anymore. They've been frozen. And then to compound all of that, unfortunately, over the past few weeks, there's been a tremendous blow against the scientists in South Africa, with the US terminating a number of grants. And South Africa really stood out during the COVID-19 pandemic because of its scientists in terms of how they were able to inform what sort of policy government needs to pursue. So on the one hand, we've got our healthcare facilities that are literally deteriorating by the day, day on day, week on week, year on year, and they're understaffed. So if we were to face the same number of cases over a short period of time, essentially our public healthcare facilities simply wouldn't cope with it in the majority of provinces.
Okay, I mean that's so ominous. I mean, thank goodness it's not likely to happen anytime soon, is it?
Well, I'm one of those that believes that the pandemic occurs every 50 years, so probably once in a lifetime, and I hope I'm right. But there's no second guessing what could happen.
Okay. What about the big lessons then to learn from what we got right and what we got wrong 5 years ago?
Look, it was, we were obviously learning as the pandemic was evolving. So it's easy in hindsight to say what we've got wrong and what we got right. But I think at the end of the day, an important lesson is that we need to adapt policy which is suitable for a local context, rather than trying to adopt sort of practices that might work in very different settings that are much better resourced. So the collateral damage that eventually transpired because of the stringent lockdown measures government enforced simply didn't pay much dividend in terms of the number of people that eventually ended up dying from COVID-19 or ended up being hospitalized. It didn't do much in terms of preventing the spread of the virus. Another big sort of thing that we got wrong was our miscalculation in terms of how proactive we were to procure COVID-19 vaccines, and then really a misjudgment in terms of not deploying the vaccine that was available because it was concerned that the vaccine didn't protect against mild infection due to the Beta variant that circulated at that time, but certainly it could have prevented high-risk individuals from developing severe disease and dying. And the 3 million doses of what was referred to as the AstraZeneca vaccine, which we eventually sold off to other African countries, could have saved a few tens of thousands of lives, especially of the elderly. So there's a lot of things to unpack. I think the scientists did a fabulous job in terms of keeping up with the virus, understanding how it was evolving. But unfortunately, some of the political decisions and policy making on the part of government simply weren't based on science. And it's difficult to understand what agenda it was pursuing, but it didn't do much when it came to being effective in controlling the spread of the virus.
So you've given us examples of some of the things, but I mean, which are the political decisions that you would think about were not based on science, but were, well, political decisions that cost us?
Well, the one that stands out is when government banned the sale of open-toe shoes, which was completely absurd. And then on the other end, they allowed for commuters to go to work in taxis, but they had other sort of restrictions in terms of people gathering. And the taxi is sort of the worst environment. The close proximity of people, the overcrowding, will ensure that the virus spreads. And in fact, when I was on the Ministerial Advisory Board, we actually recommended that taxis not be allowed to operate, and yet taxis were allowed to operate because of political pressures, probably, and political considerations.
What do you make of the many who say this whole notion of that complete lockdown was an absolute farce and disaster, and it would not have made much of a difference if people actually went to work, keeping in mind that people suffered economically? It was devastating. So.
No, certainly. So already by April of 2020, I had already indicated that the lockdown was not working in South Africa, and it wasn't surprising because in a country where people live literally from hand to mouth, needing to get money on a daily basis to put food on the table, it's impractical to think that people could just stay in their home and survive. So even when the lockdown was imposed, when I used to drive to Chris Hani Baragwanath's hospital through Soweto, there was no lockdown happening in Soweto. People were on the streets, children were not in the schools, but they were playing outside with their friends. There was simply no restriction of activities in a place such as Soweto. In the middle-class communities, where they could afford to sort of stay at home and put themselves in their own houses, it was working. So it's unsurprising that by the end of the first wave, close on to 40% of people had already been infected with the virus. And by the time Omicron came, close on to 90% of people had been infected despite all of those lockdown measures. And it came with consequences, as you mentioned.
So you would say, just so that I understand, you're saying that the rollout of the lockdown was an incorrect decision. Is that correct?
No, I totally say so, and I said it even before the lockdown started at a meeting which included the Minister of Health, that the lockdown in South Africa was not going to achieve what was being achieved in a place such as China, because our material conditions are very different, and simply put, the public doesn't have trust in government, and to expect them to adhere to policies when there's flagrant disregard for other laws in the country, I think it was naive to think that it would work in our setting. And certainly the environment that we operate in, and the country, the circumstances, socioeconomic circumstances of the country simply doesn't lend itself for that sort of a strategy to be effective.
And you also get the example earlier about the type of vaccines we used and did not use. Would you say, what do you say then to critics who say the whole concept of using vaccines was also incorrect, and whoever benefited was just big pharma and that was it?
No, vaccines were shown to have saved at least close to 20 to 25 million lives, especially in high-income countries, where it was deployed around about November of 2020. Had those vaccines not been deployed in high-income countries, there would have been loss of an additional 20 to 25 million lives in high-income countries. Unfortunately, by the time vaccines did become available on the African continent, the majority of the population had already developed infection-induced immunity, and by that time, there was very little need for a vaccine. But the other vaccines become available earlier, in the beginning of 2021, certainly it would have been much more impactful. So the impact of the vaccine in South Africa, in an African context, was marginal. It provided some protection for high-risk individuals, and still continues to provide protection for high-risk individuals. But other than that, at the public level, at a mass public level, it had a marginal impact because we allowed the virus just to spread.
All right, quick 30-second answer to this very quickly. You made the point about Trump using his Trump card, and unfortunately it was no joker, right? How do you respond against that, against the losses of that funding? Just a quick answer on that.
Well, the bottom line is that government needs to step in and take responsibility. Government is meant to spend 1.5% of its budget on research and supporting this type of work that's been done. It only spends 0.6%. I think the lesson learned is we can't have a dependency for national interest on external parties.
Okay, let's leave it at that. We probably need to have a longer discussion around funding and how to recover and mitigate against that loss of funding. Professor Shabir Madhi, Dean of the Wits University's Faculty of Health Sciences, thank you for your time here on The National Pulse.
Abafana besithende want to ensure that Amakhosi walk off the pitch empty-handed, but the Gold and Black boys from Naturena are chasing 3 points to cement their spot in the top half. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows versus Kaizer Chiefs this Saturday, 29 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's get to your calls. I'll tell you what, there's a range of issues that we can talk about. One, of course, the one issue we spoke about from the outset, that the leader of the ANC in the city of Cape Town is resigned and joined the DA on the same day. What do you make of that? We touched on Zimbabwe, the chat we just had now with Professor Shabir Madhi about big mistakes that we made during that lockdown of 5 years ago, and he believes ominously if it visited us today, we'd be in a far worse condition because our healthcare facilities have effectively, my words, collapsed since then. So it's a lot more ominous around that. And the issue of water in our country, as explained by people who've been attending and key decision makers, including Nikki Wenam, right? Any thoughts you have on all those issues? Let's get to the water issues first up. Luvo in Gqeberha, hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you. Go for it.
Yes, man, a quick one. Water, man. I was listening to a lady talking about water there, that people must pay and some mustn't pay. Ashraf, the fact is, you're not supposed to pay for the water. It's number one. At all. Number two, we're supposed to cut off all those useless municipalities which are filled with cadres. You find out those municipalities, instead of spending the money into infrastructure, they're spending the money on salaries because they created posts which are not necessary. Meaning the water issue, we're not supposed to pay for the water at all.
But are you saying that the whole country, none of us must pay at all?
The whole country, because Ashraf, our taxpayers' money has been misused. We have so many useless municipalities. I don't know why we have so many municipalities. And those municipalities, the people who are there, they don't care about any infrastructure. They care about salaries.
Okay.
They're employing each other and friends and families. Meaning, for the water issue, we're supposed to stand up as a country. We're not supposed to pay even a cent.
Okay. I wonder. I mean, I hear you. It sounds wonderful. I'd love not to pay as well. But I can tell you something. If we don't pay, those municipalities will need the money from somewhere. And government, forget a 1% or 0.5% VAT increase, they're going to increase it somewhere. So you're going to pay indirectly no matter what, okay? Unless you've got a better idea of a jigsaw puzzle for me. Tebogo in Tshwane, let's get your thoughts. Go ahead. Tebogo, hi. Yeah, what's your point?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the water endeavor that is taking place. I'm more interested in knowing.
Tebogo, I'm going to have to let you go. Not because I don't agree with you, but we can't hear your lines just so bad. My apologies. Hopefully you can call back. We'll take your call as soon as we can, right? My apology for that. Let's get to another call now in Polokwane. I love the fact that we can speak to people, and this is the great thing about, SAFM as a station and the National Pulse. In one go, we get a complete sense of the pulse rate of an entire nation. JJ in Polokwane, go for it.
Thank you very much, Ashraf.
Thank you.
Let me start here. I won't be long. I won't finish the 2 minutes.
Go for it. When you say I won't be long, I'm worried you're going to be long. But okay, make 1 point, please. Just 1 point. Yeah.
Let me indicate that from 1912, when the ANC was formed, the majority of whites didn't like it up until today. So there is nothing strange about that. Let me also indicate that from 1998 till today, DA never supported the budget. And let me say this, immediately the Appropriation Act was signed. Helen Bill went on the website. You can check on the podcast of all the stations. She indicated that the budget won't be covered. It's not a secret.
Okay, so what do you conclude from that? I mean, I'm going to push you because of time. What do you conclude from that?
Now, my conclusion is that the transformation road that we're on, it won't be a simple one. And we have to strive to achieve everything that we need to achieve.
Okay.
Let me conclude by saying the station that Ashraf is in now and all the beautiful ladies that you see on the screens of the TV, they didn't fall from heaven. It's the work of the ANC. Jay Reddy is the one who said that the RSA, Radio Springbok, must change into the talk shop station.
Well, there you are.
It was a battle.
Okay, Govan Reddy, I remember that story about including changing English radio service to SAFM radio a long time ago. Thanks for that call, JJ in Polokwane, giving us a history lesson at the same time as well, and the future. Tebogo, we got your back now. Go for it.
Yes, Ashraf, I just wanted to make a comment regarding the water endeavor that is going on. My keen interest is on knowing how much the department has spent on the endeavor itself, and what is the rationale behind us having water endeavor, because we know exactly what the problem is, and for us to gather and talk defining what water is, or what are the causes of the problems that we all know that. Now the issue is this government is so very fond of wasting money, because I want to believe they've spent millions organizing that endeavor that is not yielding positive results. We want to see men and women fixing what is a problem on the ground, not this talk shows.
So you're saying they shouldn't have any conversations at all? How then do they meet up?
Ashraf, why are we having them always? Commissions, endeavors, this and that. We are talking about things that we know. The president in his speech, he knew the modus operandi of these criminals. What else do we want? We need to just go and arrest those perpetrators.
Well, I mean, I agree with you about that. Like, why would you even say we need to work on it? Like, seriously, I mean, I agree. Tebogo, thanks for that. We're going to move on. You've made your point. Let's see if we can pick up another WhatsApp that we've got. So I mean, here's one. I think in many ways the issue that touches to the heart of what we do as a country.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I like the positiveness and the strength of your guest. I wish we can get more people or more leaders who like her. But I know, however, she can talk nice like that. But the matter of implementation is a big problem in South Africa. We have much more nice policies, but it are not working just because of the implementation.
Well, I must say I agree with you about one part. And, often we'll get political speakers who are very vague and ambiguous about what they say. You were someone who was very, very clear. So whether you agree with Nikiwe Nam or not, one thing she did, she articulated a position very, very well. I don't often say that on air, but I'm saying that now. Let's give her credit for doing just that. It's 5 o'clock. Here's the news with Greg Coase.
Top stories: Asawa, 23 South Africans rescued from Myanmar, and the DRC and South Africa conclude political discussions. Good afternoon, I'm Jolani Toulon. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation says it has rescued 23 South Africans from Myanmar, where they had been held captive for over 4 months. The department says the victims returned to South Africa a few hours ago. DIRCO says the men and women were lured to the Kingdom of Thailand under false pretenses by an employment agency that promised them lucrative jobs advertised on various social media platforms. Once in Thailand, they were transported to Myanmar against their will. They were subjected to brutal treatment, including intimidation, physical torture, and forced labor. Action SA has urged Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber to reject the citizenship application of leader of the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, Phil Craig, indicating its willingness to take the matter to court. Craig is of British descent and has lived in the country for 20 years. Minister Schreiber has the discretion to grant him a certificate of naturalization as a South African citizen based on a number of factors. Busi Bupela reports.
In a letter penned to Schreiber, Action SA's Chief Whip Lorato Ngobeni says that Craig should be disallowed from being a citizen since his divisive bid to have the Western Cape secede from the rest of South Africa makes it clear that he is not a person of good character. This is one of the requirements set out in the South African Citizens Act of 1995 to be eligible for consideration to be a citizen. The party also says that his lobbying for the breakaway of the Western Cape demonstrates that in contravention of the Act's requirements, he does not wish to reside in South Africa. Lucibo Pela, SABC News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the time for talk shops is over and government, along with stakeholders, must find solutions to the country's water crisis. Ramaphosa was speaking at the two-day National Water and Sanitation Indaba in Midrand and Gauteng. He says stakeholders taking part in the two-day gathering must come up with solutions.
What is needed now is course correction. We need to correct what is going wrong. And we also need a comprehensive plan that will expand access to water and sanitation services, improve the quality of water and sanitation infrastructure, and bring stability and good governance to all the entities involved in the South African water stewardship.
The eThekwini municipality in KwaZulu-Natal has announced that Umgeni Utugela Water will be doing emergency repairs on Pipeline 53 from today. The repairs are expected to be finished on Saturday evening. Areas in the west of the metro like Hillcrest, Umbumbulu and Adams Mission in the south, as well as Ntuzuma and Amaoti in the north, will be affected. The municipality has asked residents to reduce their water usage to prevent reservoirs from running dry. Residents are being urged to store water for essential use and report any water-related issues to the municipality. Ekurhuleni Mayor in Gauteng, Nkosi Ndiphile Xhakaza, has committed to holding members of his council accountable if they fail to deliver services to the people. Xhakaza was delivering his State of the City address in Germiston on Gauteng's East Rand. The mayor says they are committed to improving the lives of the people of Ekurhuleni. He says they need to upscale their delivery of services to ensure that every resident has access to clean drinking water, adequate sewage systems, properly paved roads and electricity. Xhakaza says they have been swift in addressing issues like potholes.
Government responded to just above 50% of all reported potholes complaints within the municipal standard response time. Continuous improvement in this regard is of paramount importance in our quest to an improved customer experience on our roads. We are also happy that the institutional review has actually been approved, and there's an item before council to add capacity.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's Foreign Minister Therese Kaikwamba Wagner says political consultations with South Africa have been constructive and fruitful. The Foreign Minister has met with her South African counterpart Ronald Lamola in Pretoria. Wagner says through their joint partnerships, the two countries can contribute to the shared prosperity of the SADC region.
I wish to congratulate us on paving the way forward for our respective teams to work towards clear deadlines and towards clear milestones that will enable us to build on the lessons learned from the last VNC that was hosted by the Democratic Republic of the Congo in July 2023, and therefore pave the way to make sure that the next one, which we look forward to, hosted by South Africa, is one that is focused and one that is aimed at making sure that our commitments translate into concrete and tangible results.
Recapping the top story, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation says it has rescued 23 South Africans from Myanmar, where they had been held captive for over 4 months. For SFM News, I'm Jolani Tulo.
And coming up in your sports this hour, South cancels winning bid for Royal AM. Lions-Dolphins match interrupted by rain, and Snyman extends his contract at Leinster. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria is queuing towards Atterbury Road, and the N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash reported before Buccleuch interchange. All lanes are open. In KZN, Felix Dlamini Road is slow moving through Sydenham, and the Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound queuing towards the R300 interchange, and the R300 westbound queuing at the M7 Jakes Hadwell Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The boxing ring will be dominated by strong and heavy punchers. Who will be named the King of Gauteng? Between Manuel Sekele and Simon Mueti. In the flyweight division, Tiamo Zwane of Northwest battles it out with KZN's Bonelo Maseko. Also in the flyweight division, there is more exciting bouts this Friday evening. This is the National Boxing Championship. Witness the powerful exchange of punches this Friday, 28 March at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, what for you has moved the National Pulse today? Based upon the conversations we've had many. I've no question, no doubt rather, the top of the list has got to be the move of the leader of the ANC in Cape Town City Council, the leader, not anybody, but the leader, that's Banele Majingo, him quitting. And in the same vein, not just quitting, the ANC that is, but joining the DA. So listen to the podcast I've done with the, earlier on with Jordan Hill-Lewis, the mayor of Cape Town. But before all of that, let's get to the ANC point of view on that issue, because now we do have with us Vusi Mdala, who's the secretary of the ANC Dalla Omar region. So in that region, Vusi, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf, to the SFM listeners.
Okay, so I can tell you now the DA's mayor of Cape Town, is delighted, he's euphoric, he's celebrating the fact that your leader of the city has actually quit the ANC and moved to the DA. What's your response?
There's nothing to celebrate from the DA for Majingo to leave the ANC and join the Democratic Alliance. I think they could celebrate if Majingo was having a constituency in the ANC that is going to bring to the DA. Majingo also, this question of him being the leader of opposition needs to be clarified and put into context. That the current leadership of the ANC that was elected in the conference is not part of the elected regional leadership of the ANC. Just leading there as a leader of opposition by default because of our issues that the current leadership was in a position of removing him as the leader of opposition, because signs of him collaborating with the Democratic Alliance were there for quite some time.
Okay, so interesting. So let's break it down. So you're saying, I mean, however it came about, he was leading the ANC caucus in Cape Town, right? Up to now. Elected or not, he was leading the ANC in that region, right?
Yes, he was the leader of opposition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you're saying that you were about to do what? To suspend him or call him up for a disciplinary hearing because there were signs of collaboration? When did you pick that up?
We're not going to suspend him, but we're going to remove him as a leader of opposition, because also all other political parties who are in opposition that we are working with in the caucus, in the council, they've been raising complaint about his conduct. And then that has prompted us also to look closer on how he's conducting himself.
Okay, what sort of
on how he's responding.
Give us some examples.
One example is that on the question of the budget, even last year, Comrade Majingo, and then he was supporting the budget 100% wholeheartedly, and then saying that that budget talks to addressing the issues that affect our people on the townships. You remember that we are living in a city of two tales, that there's the poor and the rich, and then the budget, we've always been saying that is not addressing the plight of the poor. The budget is in favor of the rich. And then Majingo, for strange reason, he has been supporting that. And then also, even now, we agreed on the motion of putting the motion of no confidence to the Speaker of the DA. And in executing that, he was reluctant and creating suspicion to a point whereby today, when the motion was about to be debated, and then he submitted his letter of resignation.
So let's get it right. There was a motion of no confidence by the ANC against an ANC leader that was due to be tabled today. Is that correct?
There was a motion of no confidence to the Speaker of the Council, and that motion of confidence was supported by the opposition parties, and then the ANC's Majingo submitted that motion of no confidence on behalf of the ANC as the leader of opposition.
Okay, and then thereafter he resigned.
And then thereafter, on the day when that motion was going to be discussed, there was a council meeting today. Started at 10 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock, and then he surprised us by submitting a letter of resignation from the ANC. Okay. And then also we saw the statement by the DA, and then also I think there are contradictory remarks on that, because also even on the statement, what he says to the DA and what he says to us, because he says to us, his decision to resign is not a rejection of the values and principles that have guided the ANC for so long. But on the other side, in the DA, he's saying something else.
Well, he said, and I'll read it, he said, I have come to realize that my personal values and principles are now more aligned to those of the DA. And I heard what you said about the ANC later on. So, I mean, here's the thing. The DA, the mayor of Cape Town, has already mentioned in my earlier conversation with him that, yes, he felt for a while now that this ANC leader was very much a DA type of person, okay? So he obviously wooed him onto the other side, and that's where he is now, right? I take it then, your point about, whether he was collaborating or not with the other party, that doesn't come as a surprise to you that he's actually now moved parties, right?
It's not a complete surprise to us, but not in a manner that they have done it. Yeah, it's not we're not completely surprised based on his conduct.
But perhaps the more important thing for you is this: at the end of the day, it's not even about him; it's about the symbol of the fact that the leader of the council has not just resigned in council, right, and then joining another party in front of everybody. How damning is that for the reputation of and the perception of the ANC in the country, and certainly in Cape Town?
No, that is not damning, because also we need to understand who is Banele Majingo, how he has become a councillor from the first instance. That is a person that has emerged in the process of the ANC of becoming a councillor that are questionable, that as a result of manipulation from the start.
So can you tell us about it so we understand? But tell us about the manipulation so we understand it.
Okay. And then in 2014, Majingo became a councillor when he was nowhere in any list of the ANC, but because of his proximity to the leadership of the ANC that was leading the region and the province then, we were all surprised to see him being a councillor when there was no process for him to be there. Currently, in 2021, there was a list process that the branches of the ANC and members of the ANC questioned because it did not follow the guidelines it outlined. It was manipulated. That list led to the Halima report that investigated and found that there was a manipulation on those who are councillors in the PR list in the city of Cape Town, of which Majingo is one of them, that they are not a product of a process that is legitimate within the ANC structures.
But you see, here's the point. It is not a product of the processes within ANC structures. And as you said, he was put in that position because of the proximity of people in high places. More so, what does that say about the ANC?
What is saying, he's resigning from the ANC, as I indicated, that he is one of those that will emerge out of processes that are questionable. Now the ANC is in the process of renewing itself, and then this process of renewing itself is going to kill those who are not fit to become ANC members. I think, on the other hand, he understood that for him, he cannot go through the eye of the needle in terms of the process moving forward. If the ANC is renewed, is one of those that needs not to be a member.
Okay, but as you know, intention to renew and to renew are not the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. The intention and the real renewal are not the same. But as the ANC in the Dala Omar region, we are seriously and genuinely embarking on the process of renewing the ANC as we are instructed by the National Executive Committee.
Mm-hmm. We've had callers, listening to the show, calling and saying, you see, this is an example of the ANC just losing ground completely. They lost many votes in the last election. They're going to lose even more. Some to the DA, some to the MK party, some to the EFF, some to other parties. And this is just another example of that. How do you respond to that?
As I indicated earlier on, that Banele Majingo is not the person that is having constituency in the ANC. And then even where he's residing as a branch member, he's going to live alone. And therefore is not going to harm the ANC electoral fortunes as we come to next year, because really we don't think that there cannot be any 2 or 3 people that are going to follow him and say, we are inspired by Majingo, therefore we follow him.
So is the branch or the ANC members in Cape Town almost saying now, good riddance and a chance to celebrate, considering what you just said earlier on?
Yes, there are a number of people in the ANC, members of the ANC, who are saying good riddance because this person has been part of those who have been sowing divisions in the ranks of the ANC, manipulating processes, because he was in the forefront of that. And therefore, I think they're going to give this ANC a fresh breather, and then as it is renewing itself.
Okay, just the last thing, Jordan Hill-Lewis, in the House in Cape Town today was very public about saying, well, we've already got one person. If any other ANC members want to join up, please come on and join in. What's your response to that? What did the other ANC members say?
As the ANC, anyone who is from the Western Cape, Cape Town, with the different experience of how to live under DA, and that one is going to be clear. We are approaching winter now, and then if you come to the township, you are greeted in every second street by the sewer that is overspilling. Therefore, there's nothing that is inspiring under the leadership of DA, because it protects the rights of the rich and then the rights of the privileged, and then those who are previously disadvantaged, they continue not to benefit anything, even on the budget that was passed by the DA today.
So just the last thing very quickly, if there's nothing inspiring about the leadership of the DA, and you've just given examples why. And I've also spoken to Jordan Hill-Lewis about the fact that the Cape Flats, is still in many ways a disaster. Why don't you think so many people still vote for the DA, not just at the city council level, but also in the province to keep them in power?
If you understand the history of the Western Cape and the history of Cape Town, that the majority, those who were oppressed and disadvantaged, others who were not treated equally, and therefore they had better privileges than the other. And then also, I think the DA is using the race card, I think, to in terms of service deliveries. It's shocking to see why they still enjoy the support that they are, whilst people are still languishing in poverty and in conditions that are unbearable for them to live.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it. I'll leave it to you and the rest of your colleagues at council, excuse me, to elect a new leader of Cape Town, because your leader is not with you any longer. He's with the other people, right? It's Vusi Mdala, the secretary of the ANC Dalla Omar region, on a dramatic day, really, in Cape Town, no matter which way you spread it. What do you make of it? Two significant interviews, one with Jordan Hill-Lewis and one with Vusi Mdala. We'll have both up as a podcast, but I want to get your thoughts on how you saw both playing out and what it impacts on you. After all, this is the National Pulse.
The South African government has implemented economic reforms to address challenges in energy, logistics, and the visa regime. State-owned entities like Eskom and Transnet are driving economic growth and job creation. Working with business, government has managed to transform energy supply, enabling private investment in electricity generation. We have had more than 200 days with no load shedding, enabling our economy to grow. Transnet has reduced port congestion, allowing South Africa to benefit from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, building and transforming the economy. A message brought to you by Government Communications.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Garda on SAFM.
So here's another significant story. The Gauteng High Court Judge, President Dunstan Malambo, has proposed that, his proposal seeks to make mediation mandatory before civil matters go to trial. So we're talking only in the cases of civil cases, to ensure that before they even go to trial, that mediation becomes compulsory. So why would he do that? Why is he saying that? What's the bottom line to all of this? Let's get the thoughts of Intabiseng Dubazana, who's an admitted attorney of the High Court and director of Dubazana Attorneys. Appreciate your time once again, Intabiseng. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So first up, good proposal, bad proposal?
It's actually a very good proposal, especially for parties who are actually choosing to go into litigation. Rule 41A has always been there for quite some time in the High Court rules. It's there as an option, as an ADR, and it usually saves costs for the parties instead of having to go through the process of very lengthy litigation. But then, unfortunately, it hasn't been utilized much, or it's always deemed that, this matter can't be settled, and then people go straight to litigation. Earlier this year, though, the judge president actually made it mandatory that there has to be a Rule 41A certificate that goes with all matters, and then just left it as that as a directive. But now, I think because we are really, really struggling in the High Courts in Gauteng to get dates as a result of the really pressured role and the very few judges who are available to hear matters, now it is quote-unquote being forced down our throats to say that no, we're going to remove all these matters. We're going to force you to find alternative dispute resolutions apart from you litigating.
So therefore, I mean, the primary reason, if I understand it correctly, whereas it's always nice to, mediate and not go to court. I mean, we all agree with that, right? Or some people agree with it anyway. The primary reason is not that. The primary reason is to actually stop the crazy backlog that you're all experiencing, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, we're getting dates since we're in 2025, 2023. We're already getting dates for 2026, 2027. So we're already looking at an unforeseen or unprecedented backlog. And as of last year, I remember there was a communique from the Judge President's office to say that can certain attorneys and certain counsel who have certain years of experience please act in these in these judge roles so that we can push the court role. But unfortunately, the requirements also set too high, so there wasn't a lot that could be done. There wasn't a lot of judges that could be hired last year. So the matters now we are looking at, if you're going to set the matter down today, for example, you are going to get a date in 2031. So already that puts, so now it puts the term access to justice should be easy for our people at a very distant place, because how are you going to wait another 4 years for your matter just to be heard?
So, I mean, that's 5-6 years. What has caused this incredible delay?
It is matters that should not be on the roll, for example. 1, 2, it is a shortage of judges. Those are the real main reasons. Actually, there's not more than, in my humble experience, of course. The main reason is that we don't have enough judges to hear the many matters that could have gone to ADR.
Mm-hmm. Now, the issue of will justice be served? So in this case here, will the justice be served? Will it be compromised if the parties, well, in this case, would have to agree to a mediation? In the long term, would it be compromised?
I really don't think so. And I'm saying this based on a matter that I had earlier this year in the Pretoria High Court. The judge insisted that the matter be remanded for ADR in terms of Rule 41. And we were assigned an advocate who's actually quite experienced in that particular field. And as a result, all the issues that were quote-unquote unsettlable, if I can use that word if it exists, we ended up settling. And then that Rule 41 was made an order of court. That's the beauty of it. So if you're able to settle and all the parties are at least comfortable with the terms of the settlement agreement, that settlement agreement can then be put on the unopposed roll, which is quicker than the opposed roll, and then you make it an order of court, and there you go.
But help me understand this. Wouldn't that have been the case even before the parties decided to go to court? So, meaning there's a dispute. I mean, people have disputes every single day, right? And then they go to court, and you're saying, then it goes to trial. But in reality, before even all of that happens, what you want ideally is when the person goes to his lawyer or her lawyer for the very first time, up front to say, come on, man, let's try and negotiate a deal. Meaning, isn't that negotiation missing in this chain?
Oh, Ashraf, you're so correct. Because a lot of our colleagues out there, I don't know if it's a choice or it's maybe the way other people were trained. I'm not quite sure. But what I do know is that a lot of us don't choose the option of trying to go through the round table first before you put pen to paper, before you start drafting a summons or an affidavit or whatever the case may be. If Ashraf comes and says Nthabiseng did X, Y, and Z, the first thing would be, can you sit down with Nthabiseng? And I, even though I'm your attorney as Ashraf, in that situation, let me act as a mediator to see if we can solve the issues. And if we're able to, great, then everybody walks away happy, costs are saved, and you as the attorney still get paid. Because I still feel like perhaps some of my colleagues avoid ADR because the assumption is that it will be referred to someone else, and therefore the fees that would have been due to you are going to someone else. Make it part of your practice. Make it something where you can get the parties involved, and if you can sort it out, fantastic. You still get a fee out of it.
Well, that sounds good, and of course the issue will be resolved a lot earlier than 5 or 6 years.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. You'll be done within a few moments, hopefully.
Hey, just lastly, has there been any counter response to that? I mean, you're in agreement with what the High Court, the Judge President has said, and maybe many others listening will say, yes, that's the way to go. Have you heard another response to say, he's wrong? We have to do it the way we do it always. Yeah?
Lots and lots of them, especially I think this current directive that says remove all matters which are set down from 2026, going forward. We're removing all of them. We are forcing you to go to ADR. I think that's exactly where the gripe is. But if the matters are new, I don't think most of my colleagues are going to be against that. The issue is, okay, but we've set this matter down since 2023. We eventually got a date for 2026, 2027, and now you're forcing us to remove the matter and to go back to the table. I think that's where the main issue would really be.
Well, I tell you what, if any one of us watches these many law cases on television, the real excitement is actually watching the negotiations that take place in consulting chambers, as you would obviously appreciate. And that's what you're talking about. Talks about talks before you get to court. That's called mediation. Intabi saying, Dumazana, I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts here on the National Pulse. There we are. Lots to consider from that, isn't it? Mediation as the way. But interestingly enough, the primary motive around this one is this backlog. 5 years, 6 years backlog for the Gauteng High Court. And I would think it could be ditto in other areas as well. Let's get the news headlines. It's 5:30.
Good afternoon. I'm Jolani Tulo making headlines. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation says it has rescued 23 South Africans from Myanmar, where they had been held captive for over 4 months. The department says the victims returned to South Africa a few hours ago. Police have called on people who were victims of robberies in the Bloemfontein CBD yesterday to report them at the Park Road police station. 2 videos have gone viral following the incidents. And finally, Traditional Leaders Organization Controlesa is calling for a referendum in order to resolve the land issue expeditiously. Controlesa President Kgosi Mathupha-Mokoena says many people are passing on without getting their land back. I will have details on these and other stories at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In Pretoria, Daspoort Tunnel queuing at the tunnel, and Iskemba-Cleley Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, Felix Dlamini Road is slow moving through Sydenham, and the R102 is closed at the Umzimkhulu River Bridge. In Cape Town, slow moving traffic reported in the Waterfront Precinct and slow moving traffic reported through Greenpoint area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Well, we talked about the royal drama at 3:30. We talked about the royal drama at 4:30. Let's talk about the royal drama at 5:30 to me.
Well, I did mention the Durban businessman. He goes by the name of Chokalingam Mudli, and his bid to buy Royal AM has now hit a brick wall after he reportedly failed SARS vetting process. Now, Royal were put on auction this month, and Mudli is said to have tabled the highest bid, but the SARS curator, Yaku Venter, says that he found information that makes the businessman unfit to take over. So, as things stand, the club is still on the market, and we are still yet to hear a final announcement with regards to what's happening with the club. This definitely opens the door to the likes of David Skosana and their consortium, because apparently they tabled 15 million rand, which was not taken, obviously. And now with 7 weeks left before the season ends, it will be difficult for Royal to play and conclude their remaining matches when the new owner takes over, and the league is set to end like when? On the 24th of May, meaning they'd have to play at least 3 matches every week to catch up. Now they've only played 11 games and missed 12. So even after the new owner of the club is announced, the big question will be, is Royal AM going to play the remaining fixtures or not? What is the PSL going to decide with regards to the club moving forward? Meanwhile, still staying with football, Mamelodi Sundowns striker Peter Shaluli lays on the brink of making history. He's just 2 goals away from equaling the PSL's all-time record of 129 goals that's held by Siyabonga Nomvete. The Brazilians are in action tomorrow against Kukuna United in the Nedbank Cup quarter-final clash. So tomorrow might just be be the day that he equals or breaks that record. In rugby, with the hopes of Springbok lock Argias Snyman returning to South Africa to play for a local franchise, well, that took a turn as he has extended his contract by 1 year with Leinster. Snyman joined Leinster last season and has now made 14 appearances for them, scoring 4 tries all in all. Meanwhile, Bulls Daisies assistant coach Bongiwe Nhleko says that she's expecting the team to remain calm under pressure as they look to secure their third SA Rugby Women's Premier Division title this weekend. The Daisies will face Western Province for a third time in the Women's Rugby League final at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday.
As finals always bring an extra level of energy, so we expect the players to stay calm under pressure, trust in the training and the process of everything, and just remain focused on executing what they know. We want them to give their all and show their heart and resilience that got them here. So it's a great opportunity to prove, to showcase their skills on the big stage.
Meanwhile, the Proteas will tour Zimbabwe between June and July, where they will face the hosts in a 2-match test series at Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo. The Proteas will also participate in a T20 tri-series against Zimbabwe and New Zealand, and that one is happening between the 14th and the 26th of July. In Formula One, Red Bull have decided to replace Liam Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda in the senior Red Bull Racing squad. Lawson has had a difficult start to the season, struggling with the RB21 during the Australian and Chinese Grand Prix weekends, crashing out in the Formula One amid treacherous conditions before crossing the line in 15th in Shanghai, which later became 12th following the disqualification of Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly ahead. Now, Lawson was chosen ahead of Tsunoda to replace Sergio Perez despite just 11 F1 race weekends under his belt. Well, that's it. It is a wrap from my side. I'll be back again tomorrow.
With what? More royal news?
Probably there will be an update.
From Her Royal Highness. Thank you so much. Yeah. Goodbye.
Well, that's it.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, Jimmy, I suppose setting the scene for your show from 6 to 7, let's talk about South Africa and the World Bank. What's the connection?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. There are some interesting developments happening from that front. If you remember back in the pandemic, South Africa went to the World Bank for a COVID-19 assistance loan. And recently we had heard rumors that South Africa was also applying for a developmental loan of another 1-point-something odd billion dollars. This time around, the South African government and the World Bank seem to be discussing a collaborative effort to turn around municipalities through some form of structuring of about a 55 billion rand plan. Of this 55 billion rand plan, it looks as though $1 billion will likely come from the World Bank as a loan. It looks as though another 2 billion is supposed to come from the government itself, and we're going to see something about an additional couple of billions coming through from municipalities themselves. Going to be very interesting to look into this. I want to try and unpack what's happening here, what this turnaround plan looks like. I've been trying to get hold of the World Bank and the government to speak on this particular matter. Haven't yet gotten a response from them, but I think it's important to have these conversations, so I'm happy to have this conversation and then have another one if either party comes back to us. We're going to be speaking to the organization and doing tax abuse around the probabilities of this loan, and does it all make sense? Does this turnaround strategy have a plan to it, and does it have any merit to it? And then we're also going to be taking a look at some interesting developments from the team at Corruption Watch. They put out the latest report confirming what they have analysed in terms of the amount of corruption complaints that have come through, and we're going to take a look at whether or not we are better off or worse off than we were last year when they did this report. They've been doing the report, I think, for about 12 years now, so it's something that they do on an annual basis, give us an update on what's happening around the country, around the things that matter to us the most as citizens, and we're going to speak to them about that as well. We've also got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank around some interesting things that they're doing on the insurance side of things. We're looking at the impact of technology on insurance products and on insurance developments, and we're going to speak to them and see what it is that they are doing in that respect. And then, because it is a Thursday, we usually have an SME on a Thursday. This time around, we're going to be speaking to a fund or program director from a fund that has recently been set up to specifically target artisans in the country. I don't know if a fund like this actually exists or existed before this one was established. This one's a fairly new fund, having been established just last week. So we're going to speak to them and see what the objectives are here and how they aim to assist artisans around South Africa. Before we get to all of that, the markets have had a confusing day. Good day on the commodity side of it. It was a rather concerning day on the currency side. It looks as though we're a little better off. I was looking at the rand a little earlier. It was at around 18.30 against the US dollar. It's now back at 18.23, so it is still fighting fit there. When I look at the international markets, the Asian markets were a bit of a mixed bag as well. Hong Kong had a green day, the Nikkei had a red day. The Nikkei was down almost 0.2%, the ASX in Sydney down as well. So only Chinese markets really having a good day there. In terms of Asian markets, European markets all in the red, with the DAX the biggest loser, down 0.2%. If we look at US markets, they're starting the day in the green, with the Nasdaq up almost 0.33% and the S&P up about 0.25% at the moment. South African markets were also not looking the best a little earlier on. We were in the red quite a bit, and I see now we've kind of closed the day out slightly in a better position, basically flat on the top 40 and flat on the all share, flat on resources. Industrials up 0.33%, but financials down 0.4%. So markets kind of flat in terms of our own equity markets. As I said, the rand against the dollar 18.23 at the moment, doing well there. British pound, one British pound will cost you 23.65, a little weaker than it was yesterday. 1 euro also a little weaker, 19 rand 71. 1 Australian dollar 11 rand and 50 cents. Anyone looking at the gold price, it's $3,057 a fine ounce, up about 1% at the moment. Brent crude still approaching $74 a barrel rather, 73.90. Platinum and palladium 985 in the case of either commodity, and that is better than the 975 that they were at yesterday when we had this conversation. Bitcoin price still holding steady around that $87,000 mark, so $87,000 a coin, or around 1.58 million rand. So we're going to be looking at some of the driving factors behind local markets. I've got a conversation with the senior equity analyst at Momentum Investments, Fahima Adia, around the Ascendus results. We've got Ascendus results as well coming out today, so we're going to look at those amongst other things when we come back a little later on. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect, Jimmy. Thanks for that. And your show 6 to 7. Do not miss that, followed by Sport 7 to 8. Now, we'll take your calls, and I'm sure you have lots of views about some of the biggest issues we've covered today. What are you going to be talking about?
You're listening to the National Pulse.
So we were hoping to be chatting to former Councillor Banele Majingo, that's the former ANC leader in Cape Town, who, as you know, effectively quit on the floor and moved off to the DA. Talk about crossing the floor, literally. We're hoping to talk to him. We had two chats before. Jordan Hill-Lewis on the one end, from a ANC, from a DA perspective, and then from an ANC perspective, we also had it from a representative from the Dala Omar region, that's Vusi Mdala. But this is what Banele Majingo explained about his decision.
My name is Banele Majingo, the leader of opposition in the African National Congress in the city of Cape Town. Today I stand before you with a heavy heart, torn between my loyalty to the organization that has been my home for so long and my conviction that it is time for me to take a different path. I am resigning from all position as a member of the Branch Executive Committee of the African National Congress, as a member of the Regional Election Team Manager, as a member of the Demarcation Task Team in the region, and a leader of opposition, effective immediately. While it is a difficult decision to make, it is the best course of action for me at this time. I appreciate the experience and knowledge gained during my time as a member, and I am grateful to the ANC for the opportunities I have had to serve and grow. However, after careful consideration, I have come to realize that my personal values and principles are now more aligned with those of the Democratic Alliance. Their vision draws me, and I am committed to their pursuit for clean government and economic growth. I am increasingly impressed with their commitment to deliver for poor residents and the unemployed. Meanwhile, I want to assure my comrades that my decision to leave is not a rejection of the values and principles that have guided our organization for so long. Rather, it's a recognition that the time has come for me to seek a new vehicle to serve our nation and contribute to building a better society. In conclusion, I am excited about the future and the possibilities that lie ahead. I am committed to serving our nation and contributing to building a better South Africa. Let us continue to work together towards a better South Africa for all. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's from the former ANC leader of the Cape Caucus in Cape Town, who's now moved on to the DA. I wonder what you make of all of that and the impact on the GNU as well. And as many have suggested from the ANC part, he's certainly been not a desired choice within the ANC for a long, long time, on the one hand. But from a DA perspective, Jordan Hilda was saying, in fact, I always saw him out as very much more of a DA person than an ANC person. So much to consider. I'll take your calls in a moment.
March is International Women's Month, a time to honor the strength, resilience, and rights of women everywhere. The GBVF Response Fund is sharing a reminder that women's rights are human rights. But today, amidst global and national instability, women's equality is under threat. Now is the time to reclaim our power, demanding fair access to social services and opportunities. Together, from our homes to our communities, let's raise our voices and create a future where every woman and girl can thrive. Because when women rise, nations rise. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi. Because where words fail, music speaks.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, tomorrow, every Friday we have the Fireside Chat, right? And tomorrow's guest is the CEO of Business Leadership SA, and looking forward to that chat with Busi Mabuso. Really should be a fascinating chat. Okay, but for now, I want to get a sense of your pulse. Shatta in Cape Town, what are you feeling? Shatta, hello?
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good indeed. What are you feeling?
I'm good. This Machine Goods guy and with this Lewis guy, really now, insulting poor people like that, I stay in Tableview. As I'm speaking, Ashraf, I'm driving past Danune. It's shocking. It's shocking. I was in Khayelitsha last weekend. It's shocking. You know, I'm in the construction space. The amount of money that even the Western Cape government spends for a rugby field in white schools, the budget of what is spent there is even worse than, higher, than what they budget to build a school in a black environment. Right.
So your point is what? The issue of the DA being able to put a lid on poverty or having a very clear plan for poverty is not
lying about it. Lying about it, saying that they're doing good for poor people in the province or in the city itself. That is not true.
Okay, got that.
That is not true.
Yeah.
That is a lie.
All right, Shata, let's leave it at that. We're going to move on. I want to get as many calls as I can. Shata in Cape Town, that's a lie. He says, in Mklongo and KZN, let's talk about the water.
I listened to Minister Matjadini, and she was saying we have a problem with water. We have a problem with vandalism and all that. But she actually forgot to mention the fact there is a problem of upkeep of infrastructure, which then at the end becomes, it become useless because it can't keep what it's supposed to do. To the extent that even the infrastructure grant is not used for infrastructure, it's used for salaries by these municipalities.
So you think it's mismanagement, yeah?
Caller was saying that we are supposed to be paying for water.
Okay. All right.
And then he made a reference to these municipalities. Very important point, Ashraf, of these municipalities that were established and they do not even have rate base. And it's got full council that we pay for instead of just having an office to pay rates and car licenses and so on. Okay. So there is just too many municipalities that need to be de-established because, they just are milking the taxpayer.
Okay, but that's a reflection of so many things. One may say the same even with the ministers and the cabinet ministers too, right? So thanks for that. Sorry, excuse me. Thanks for that. Call Mklongo in KZN. Right, let's get to Magdalene in Bloemfontein. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you. My fault is the same as yours. If I cough, please forgive me. Be with me.
I'm struggling, because it's Ramadan, I'm fasting, and Phineas is looking at me, and you know what, I can't drink water, so I'm struggling.
Good luck.
We'll get there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Ashraf, the point of water, there's no need that the minister can come today with those points saying municipality supposed to have employed engineers, artisans, all those type of things, whereas our children are frustrated and had to go around and put themselves or resort into drugs and criminal activities, whereas they are highly skilled, waited for to be employed by the municipalities. But municipalities are not interested in them because they are not their children or their relatives or the green apple or red apples. That's the thing. So she can't come with excuses because all the provinces have been complaining, crying about lack of water in their areas. So is it a mechanism of trying to canvass for local authorities votes for next year?
Well, I don't know. But the fact is that... the fact is that there's a definitely water disaster in our country. That's clear. Absolutely.
It has been...
Yeah? Oh, I think we just lost Magdalene. Sorry, not sure.
Us.
Yeah, we lose.
They ignored us. They ignored us. They ignored us. We complained over the radios. They ignored us.
Okay.
So they're taking us for a ride.
Magdalene,
So they must stop it.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that. They ignored us. You said it 5 times. Maybe someone needs to listen to you so they do not ignore you, right? Percy in Matlosana. Go for it, Percy.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know what? Now I want to be honest. I am asking myself why ANC, they are still busy keeping President Ramaphosa. This guy doesn't have plans for us. Every time it is mining in Daba, water in Daba, what next? Unemployment in Daba, what next? The crime in Daba. Come on, we don't need that. This guy doesn't have a plan for us. We have serious crisis here. Our engineers are sit at home are not working. When you go to those water tanks to check, the pressure pump are not working. At midnight, water start to flow. But our mayor and politicians, they prioritize tender there because of their benefit. So they are using lots of money for Indaba, the water Indaba. They are going to spend almost 15 million. We are struggling with water.
Okay. Well, that reflects again what we hear just across the board. So many people, so many municipalities, towns are absolutely struggling with water. And, besides infrastructure damage, there's been poor management, and therefore, they've been unable to put a lid on issues. Let's go back to some of the other WhatsApps we've had about some of the biggest issues about where we are as a country. Here's one of them.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Siyabonga Mzimela at Newcastle. I feel very happy to see our parliament to have the mixture of blacks and white there. Yeah, that is a full representation of a South African rainbow nation. And somehow the chain of corruption, it will be disconnected. Maybe sooner or later, the thing of corruption will be the past.
Will it be in the past? It's a lot more than just a rainbow nation. I think what you want is a nation that is socially cohesive. That's really the big deal, right?
Hi, Ashraf. I'm surprised that what you call the transfer or political transfer of the season is not even making it to the headlines. It's strange, right? When Floyd Shivambu left EFF to the MK, it was all over the place, I think, for quite a number of days.
Well, it's only day one, so give them a chance. It did make headlines, but I actually didn't say this one is the political transfer. I said that one was the political transfer of the season. My question was, how does this one measure up to that?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf Matabu. Ashraf, I think this is possible to happen in Cape Town because most of Cape Townians are brainwashed by DA. So it is not a miracle. It is not something that is surprising. Some of these things in Cape Town are expected. Thank you.
Some of these things in Cape Town are expected. Like what? I wonder. Right, here's another.
Ashraf, coming to the DA, when they selected the councillors, it is very much interesting because they are going to be nominated. After nominated, they are going for the screening. And they are going to the selection panel. And the selection panel, there are those who are going to rank them. And after that, he's going to face the election as a candidate or to be posted. Therefore, this is a good thing. My name is Les Sedima. Come and join DA in large numbers. Thank you.
Okay. Canvassing for the DA on the national pulse. I wonder who's going to be convinced by that. Well, certainly we know one person was already convinced. Let's get into other issues like the pandemic. Remember 5 years ago? Today, I understand.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Coming to the topic about if we can compete with another pandemic. Ashraf, no closing of the country this time around. I mean, what I've checked is like the country was closed. We were in the houses, Ashraf, while people were charging all the funds that were allocated from IMF, that 500 billion. People lost their jobs. Up until today, they have been recovered yet. The poverty that was caused by those in the country is something that nobody ever talks about it. No more closing of the country. I think the president by then will make another plan. LV, a truck driver. That's okay.
Thank you for that. The truck driver from the Western Cape. By the way, Shabir Mahdi, who we spoke to earlier on, made the point about he thinks we erred on the lockdown, and then regarding the vaccines, we accepted the vaccines far later, and it cost us many lives.
Ashraf, this is Zanele Ndebens. There's only one thing I missed that I wish it could be brought back, that was applied during the lockdown and the regulations of COVID-19, is the social distancing. You know the social distance? Oh God, I really hate hearing a person breathing over my shoulder. I really hate that. That I wish it could be brought back, the social distance. Thank you.
Oh goodness. Okay, here's the last one I can play.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, since 1994, these politicians have been calling us their poor people, our poor people, our poor people. Yet they do nothing about that poverty. They are even stealing the little that we have to survive. They must stop calling us their poor people. They must leave us alone. They must leave us alone. We are tired of being called the poor people, or poor people, or poor people. They can just say South Africans. As simple as that. Not from Brixton.
All right, not going to call you our poor people. The rich people, or whatever it is. Norman, I appreciate the point that you make. Maybe it's a very telling statement as we end the show here. As always on the National Pulse, thanks for listening. Thanks for engaging by calling in, WhatsApps, as well as posting on the X or Twitter feed. Much appreciated. Or we'll do it again tomorrow, because as always, the National Pulse is a 24/7 situation, isn't it? As you reflect the pulse of the nation. Let's get to the news. Here's Greg House.
Top stories: Asawa, 23 South Africans rescued from Myanmar, and Contralesa calls for a referendum to resolve the land issue. Good evening, I'm Jolani Tulo. The Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation will investigate a human trafficking case after 23 South African